bigger drop off at the end of my drive. And they moved the dirt that I personally put down on my dime, down the other end of the drive, end of the road. So it didn't, finding the baseline's fine. I just want to make sure that we're not doing the same routine every month from here on out. And that we have some mechanism that is more a demand, call on demand, but it's an assessment that we, the Board of Control District, say, yeah, it should be done or should it be done.
Okay, all right, moving to 12B. John Laporta.
John Ryan, 3508 A Road.
This isn't on my set sheet, but the town has the primary contact with Palm Beach State College. I want to make the town council aware that the district will be contacting Dr. Gallen. We assume that Palm Beach State College, like other nonprofit entities, churches and hospitals in the road, that have the benefit of roads and drainage and flood control, that they would be subject to pavement maintenance assessments, just like every other nonprofit in the road and every other resident is. Recently, when we got communication from the property appraiser as to the assessable acres, we found we were short for 75 acres that relate to college property. There's, the state statute says that when we contact the property appraiser that they're automatically exempt, but they can agree to not be exempt if the off-site improvements benefit them and they decide that they will be subject to the acre assessment. So we're going to request that they consider remaining subject to the road and canal maintenance assessments like other nonprofits. I want to make the town council aware of that. It's the district's issue to contact them because it's our assessments we're concerned about. The dollar amount involved would be $11,250 in assessments associated with those 75 acres. If that's spread to the remaining acres, the total acres in the district less those 75, it's about $1.44 an acre. And the impact is not that great on people, but we do expect the college to be a full citizen, and we didn't anticipate they were going to be automatically exempt. We thought they might apply, and then we would say, well, these are the reasons we don't think we should apply for that exemption. If any of the town council members in their contacts with Dr. Gallen have discussed this in any way, and I thought I remembered in one of the workshops it was brought up that we thought they would be subject to the acre assessment. And so if you can add any background to our request, I don't even know if it's possible to get the change instituted this year because I think there's a fairly short time frame to correct the tax appraiser's records. But we'll probably be working with our council to make contact with the college that's coming in the next few days. So I just want to make you aware of that.
Thank you, John. All right, Ron.
I called and spoke with Dr. Gallen, and he acted like he wasn't aware of the situation. And I would hope the town could, I don't know if legally we can, I would hope the town could give some type of support letter or something to the water control district asking for them to voluntarily do that. Now, can we do that, Mike, or is that out of the question?
Well, it's not out of the question, but the direction would have to come from council. You'd have to approve the letter to be sent. I guess you would have the benefit to the same folks who pay your taxes. If you wanted to direct me to prepare a draft letter, you could adopt a motion giving me that direction. It's not an uncommon issue, by the way, with the public schools and this type of assessment. Just to let you know, and it's still in litigation about a lot of these issues. But there's nothing inappropriate with you giving me direction. If you feel it's in the best interest of the town, you send such a letter.
And I know the college has expressed to us, at least they wanted to work with us and have a good relationship. Now, to me, that would definitely be a good relationship instead of beating us out $11,000. sure it's not gonna hurt the college. So I make a motion that we direct Mike to draft a letter and send it to the college also about this assessment.
One second.
I'll second.
Okay, seconded by Jim. Comments, what we need, what we want to see in the letter.
Yeah, Mike, can we give you direction to just do it? I mean, we don't need another meeting to talk about it, right?
Well,
We just tell you now what we want you to say.
if you want to give me the input and then give authority for the mayor to give final approval of the letter for his signature.
I mean, my thought would be, if we sent a letter saying, we were of the understanding that the college would be tax exempt as far as property tax, but at the same time, we were, we will continue to provide, flood, the water issues and stuff like that, and feel that we would like to pay that, the assessment on the water.
You support their payment of the district's assessment.
Yes, as with every other tax exempt property in Los Angeles. That's kind of my thought.
Yes, I'm drafted and authorized to amend the motion, authorize the mayor to sign it without seeing it here.
Amended.
So, the mayor will just finally approve whatever we prepare, and he'll sign it on behalf of the council.
All right, so we're all right on both sides, so we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
All right, moving to public comments. I've got two, Virginia and Bill Klein.
Virginia Standish, 15410 North Road. I just want to say that serving on the committees has given me opportunity to watch the flow of things that happen in this town and in this county. And I'd like to bring to your attention that Palm Beach County this week, or this past month, has been working on an amendment to a ULDC that specifically addressed livestock being an accessory use to residents. And what was interesting about that is not the fact that they allowed it. What was interesting is that they stated that it was permitted in areas that did not have a PUD. So I'd like to bring to your attention, I believe I'm correct, if I'm incorrect, Mark will let me know, that this town, I believe, has a master PUD overlay. Now, at the FACC committee, there was commentary about how prices had gone down 9% in value, to which my response was, by 2035, this whole county is going to be like Broward. So that's the point. My point here is, I think you need to be honest with the landowners of Loxahatchee Grove, that the majority of this town council and the majority of the planning and zoning committee created a master overlay. A master overlay is for the purpose of development. So thank goodness Palm Beach County ULDCs don't apply, because then there would no longer be livestock in the town of Loxahatchee Grove. So when you look at the map and you pull it up, what it's showing you is the eastern corridor of Florida, which is gray, which is city. It also shows you the town of Loxahatchee Groves, which is now gray, which is city. So you're concerned about the town, why people don't understand what you're doing, what's going on here. And this case, this recent ruling of the ULDC made it very clear what's going on in this town. You have a master PUD development in the town of Loxahatchee Groves. It is now clear you are creating a master development for this community, and you're trying to get rid of agriculture, based on what I'm seeing play out in Palm Beach County. I just want to bring that to your gentlemen, the attention, and that's how I'm approaching it when I deal with this town. And when I listen to you say you support ag, I can no longer believe it. Thank you.
Thank you, Virginia. Bill Klein.
Bill Klein, E Road, 3191 E Road. I had a problem when it came to the council approximately, well, started off, came to Mr. Goodman first and then came to the council. About 7 months ago, everyone seemed concerned and started on it and got the ball rolling. then something happened, we went backwards. We got to start over. And then a couple of months ago, said, well, that's to go to P and Z. Has it been to P and Z? What happened? I don't understand how things work. Was I supposed to bring it up again to go to P and Z, or what? I don't understand how things work.
We had a report on that earlier, and Mark, you want to reiterate what we're talking about?
The matter is going before the P and Z on September 12th. The town council asked that if we can bring it back to them on September 17th.
Well, 2 months ago, it was gonna go to P and Z.
I don't agree with this,
When we went backwards. I came in to see Mr. Kootenai last week. And, see, I don't understand how things work here, you know, so. I fabricate and weld, mechanic, I'm not anyway, you know, I don't see nothing here that could have brought this up this evening if I hadn't been here. On this, you know, I came in last week and talked to him, so I'm kind of lost, you know.
Mr. Mayor,
It's
can
been going on about 7 months.
Bill,
Is it possible we can get this thing going and have 2 readings in 1 month
Bill,
and get it done?
we talked about that tonight. I think we have a goal to get it done by October, end of October. Starting in a couple of weeks to maybe have the first reading. That's our goal. The council supported that.
Yeah, okay.
So what we've tried to do in the past, we're starting a new beginning. And I think we all agree that we have a chance to get it done now.
Yeah, okay.
And we'll do reading after reading each meeting,
All right.
if we can get that done. I think we all talked about it.
Okay, great.
Try to do that.
I know everybody seemed concerned and was trying hard to try to get it going, and something happened, all of a sudden. Okay, thank you.
Go to the P and Z board because they're the ones that are gonna be your biggest concern. If they don't pass it, it won't come here.
Yeah,
It's important for you, because that's where.
Well, it'll come here just without a recommendation. They
Right.
need to take action on it.
Yeah.
That's where the opposition came from.
Yeah, because they've raised some concern, not about your business, but about how it would affect all of the businesses in Los Angeles. So that's what happened the first time. So, yeah, visit that meeting.
because I mean, my situation goes back, you know, I've been out there 45 years, and I've had this going on 30 years, and then all of a sudden, you know, got a little problem here, you know, you think I'll be grandfathered in. Well, even no power on any road when I moved there, I was the first one there.
Yeah,
No.
no, I know.
All right, thank you.
Okay, town attorney, Mike?
No report. I mean, I have my standard, you know, it's time of year to go Gators.
You're still saying that?
Are you gonna say it?
Still saying it, still saying it.
Town council member, Sergeant Tom?
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for coming. Didn't quite make our record again, but good job.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. And, just a quick show of hands, is there anybody in this room that would be interested in being on the, what board? The RET, VTAG board, that's equestrian trails and roads. I'm just curious, while I have a chance to speak, is there anybody in this room that would dedicate to get on that committee? I see somebody might be interested, Mr. Brown.
I know that Keith Harris was at the meeting and offered. for what it was worth.
Okay, Brian?
Thank you for coming. Again, I'm one of the people who's going to possibly be looking for a replacement for the RETAG committee, and also go Gators.
Okay, Jim?
Thank you for coming and sticking it out.
Okay. And thank you also, because I think these meetings with just 3 or 4 items will be really short, and they're not. So anyway, thank you all for coming, and
Originally, they had.
Acupuncture, yes. The Lydian's already so far away. If he doesn't, I'll call you tomorrow. Thank you.
I don't know, but I wish you did.
Well, what I'm saying, I don't think it's never brought it for a second. So it started off here, and it was,
Where do I do that one?
I've got some more of these. I've got some more of these things. Good evening and welcome to the September 3rd meeting of Los Angeles Grove Town Council. If we could have the roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Mayor Browning,
Here.
Vice Mayor Gerald,
Here.
Councilman Wilson,
Here.
Councilman Liang,
Here.
Councilman Rocket,
Okay, he is not here at this time. All right. If you would stand for the pledge, remain standing for the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Heavenly Father, we do ask for your guidance and help tonight. Keep the meeting civil and orderly, and we pray for those that are serving our country overseas, that you would watch over them, we pray in your name. Amen. All right. As far as the agenda, any additions or corrections, and if not, I'll take an approval.
One correction.
Ron?
I'd like to request item 2C removed from the consent agenda for discussion.
Okay. All right, removal of 2C. Okay. And which means that you want to discuss that.
Right.
All right. We're going to put that on, what place on the,
You can do it right after you go on consent, since it was pulled from consent.
okay, so we'll do it right after consent? All right. All right, any other additions? I've got one here, if you don't, that John Ryan has brought forth, and it is kind of time sensitive, and it regards the taxing of Palm Beach State College. So, if we could stick that on an item for new business. Mark, that's all right with everybody?
Well,
Okay. All right. So you'll make a motion to add it on? Second by Ryan. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passes 4-0 to add this to new business. All right. With that, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as modified.
I'll make that.
Okay. Thank you, Ryan. Second by Ron. Further discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Moving to 2, consent agenda, with the exception of 2A. And I'll entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Ryan makes a motion. Second.
That was 2C, right?
2C.
Yeah, 2C.
Okay. Second by Tom. Further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same side. Consent agenda passes 4-0. We will then now go to discussion of 2C out of the consent agenda.
All right, now basically, Mike and Mark, I just need a clarification. I went over the contract, and 2.3 says that consultant shall furnish all personal services, equipment, materials necessary, and as may be required by the performance of this agreement. And the other question was a clarification of 4.3. The town shall not be responsible for any other expenses for the consultant services provided pursuant to this agreement. Basically what I'm getting at is if we're going to be paying for rental tools and stuff like that, I believe it should be in the contract. And I don't see it in the contract unless I missed it. And I know we have been paying for rental tools.
That's right.
put in the contract?
No, I personally, here's how I feel about rental tools. When you hire a lawn maintenance crew to come up, cut your grass, or trim your trees, or whatever, they have the tools with them, okay? I've always felt like our consultant, he should have a lawnmower. If he's gonna be cutting for the town and stuff, he should have his own lawnmower, he should have his own chainsaw and stuff like that. I don't believe the taxpayers should have to pay for equipment that we rent from a rental place. And the other thing is, I kind of disagreed in the past about us trimming hedges with hand equipment, chainsaws, pole saws, and stuff like that. When we had a water control district back then that would do it free, now we've got a contract. We've got a contract with a hedging mowing company. So really, I don't see a need to put it in the contract, because I would hope our consultant would not be trimming hedges and stuff like that anymore. He's definitely got enough on his plate without doing that. And his work is getting more and more of a heavy workload with other things, putting up signs, making meetings and stuff like that. So I personally don't see why it should be in the contract.
All right. Anybody, any comments on that? All right. And the only thing I've got, that's probably a unique situation where we pay a guy by the hour. His job title kind of changes. I would agree with you if there was a lot of it to do, but I know one of the things that I want to bring up in my comments is somebody made a statement to me, we have a few stop signs in our town that are now grown over. So I think that would be one of those items that, this person, it would be a good idea maybe to go out there with some hand clippers or something and cut that stuff off to expose the stop sign before somebody got hurt. So, I mean, but then again, that doesn't involve rental of equipment or anything like that. But, so, Ron, do you want to make it into a motion to change this contract?
No, I definitely, I like the contract the way it is. In other words, basically, I'm saying if it's not in the contract, we don't need to be doing it as a town. That's the point I'm trying to make. I like the contract the way it is. I wanted to clarify with the council tonight that we won't be renting equipment and stuff. We've got contractors now to do hedging and mowing. Okay, if a stop sign needs to be weed eated around, then I think we're dropping the ball. I think the water control district could handle that with their people. That's just as, rather than $26.50 an hour to go out and weed eat around the stop sign. I frown on that, but I may be the only council member that frowns on that. So I like the contract as it is. I just want it clear from my viewpoint that I do not believe that our accountant should be renting equipment to work for this town. Unless it was an emergency situation. I'll make an example. If it's an emergency situation, and I find that hard to believe that a stop sign, the weeds are going to get so high, if we're monitoring things, stuff like this should never happen. That's the only circumstance that I would feel like we go out and rent equipment as an emergency situation, and one of our contractors can't do it.
Okay. So we pulled this out of the consent agenda, we need to vote on it.
Well, you have two different contracts. It's the Stu and Taylor and the Frank Shiola contract.
I don't have a problem with Stu and Taylor.
Okay.
Your Honor, let me just address the independent contractor. As you know, last year's contract, we made a change, a significant change in the contract. Specifically, I would refer you to page 8 of 8, Exhibit A, scope of services. 7 reads, for the purpose of this agreement, public works services include but are not limited to solid waste monitoring, code enforcement support related to manure hauling and similar issues, traffic sign maintenance and erection, roadway maintenance and related transportation issues, facilities maintenance, and emergency management activities. Now, I think you've got to be careful because the utility of the consultant can be compromised, especially if we strictly enforce those requirements. I mean, there have been times when he has gone out and taken care of some potholes in the road, things like that, where he purchased the materials to go ahead and do that job. Now, if you don't want him doing that, then we can stop him from doing that and keep him more toward the consulting services of waste monitoring And, when we have like the code enforcement stuff that we get him involved in, 9 out of 10 times is usually when we get a manure complaint, right away we dispatch him to check that out and see what's happening. But, I guess that's the thing I would want the council to consider. It really gets down to what you want this individual to do. For example, you're not gonna make him buy signs. We buy the signs, he erects them. So, the way that's materials. I know the vice mayor keyed in on equipment. So, obviously, if you want him to have all the equipment, then that is going to limit the scope of the assignments that he can undertake.
Okay, before we go any further, let the record reflect Councilman Rocket is here. Okay. All right, any more comments, Ron?
Town manager reference to filling potholes with asphalt and stuff. Okay, we just had an incident. As I said, we've got contractors on board now. We waited a long time. The water control district, the last council meeting I made, I was asking about Compton Road and what we were going to do about the potholes and stuff. I'd already contacted town management. The mayor had left it up to the town manager to try and come up with an asphalt company that would give a bid, whatever. But long story short, I also approached Frank, and Frank said that it was too big of a job for him, too many potholes, too time consuming. And that's when our management, Frank and Steve Yoy with the water control district, they met on Compton Road, they met on Bryan Road, and I believe they met on Marcella. They decided that the water control district, under our contract with them, could handle that situation on Compton Road. They went out there and they filled anywhere from 10 or more potholes with asphalt. And it was not Frank. So what I'm getting at is Frank has enough work to do, and I don't mind him getting paid by the hour to mow a place if nobody can get to it, or trim around a stop sign, or trim a limb that's hanging over in the road if somebody can get with their car or their truck. I don't mind him doing that. My problem is us paying for rental equipment. You can't go out, it's very hard to go out, when you rent a chainsaw or a weed eater or something, most of them will not rent it by the hour. They rent it by a half a day or a day. And I feel like the town is wasting taxpayers' money to do stuff like that. I hope I'm trying to clarify myself.
All right,
Mr. Mayor, are we taking this out of the consent agenda, for renewal of Frank's contract, or what?
yes.
So we have further discussion on that, we do that, or are we just going to continue discussion?
What's that?
Oh, can we continue discussion on Frank's contract, or take it out, or you want to take it out?
It's already taken out. Yeah,
Okay,
it's
then-
already, we already approved the consent
Okay,
agenda.
I had some
Exceptions.
questions on the contract, I'm sorry, I'm late.
Okay, no, that's all right. All right, Jim, we'll make, what are your comments?
First of all, the reason Frank rents the equipment is at my direction at one time, because, so if I'm at fault to suggest that, then that's fine. I felt like if he chooses his own equipment and charging us for it, we should not be doing that. We should be, if we don't have equipment for him to use, we just have him rent it. That to me was a cleaner, if you will, separation of having to do something. So, and I'm not opposed, but just to explain why I think he may be doing it, because of one of the, it came up that I said I just didn't think it was right for him to use his own equipment. And we should have, either have equipment for him or use it. So taking it out and having not having equipment, I have a problem with it, especially since we have now contractors and a lot of service providers that we can call on. One of the things that I don't know, it really is not specific in the contract, but it is, I guess, included because it's not excluded, is that he has been, and I'm sure it's been of value to us, to have him supervise our debris removal trimming contractor. But my concern is that, and I believe Councilman Gerald had voiced concern when we started this process with it, is that it's an expensive process for us to have Frank out there to supervise the contractors, and what it technically amounts to is we are adding money to a service that we've already paid for, which is the town manager responsible to supervise contractor. Now, I don't know if it says in his contract he has to go out on the road, but as far as I'm concerned, he supervises contractors, and it shouldn't cost us any more to do that, which we have contractors, that's part of his job. So we shouldn't be paying another $26 an hour plus. Frank did that, so I would like the council to suggest that Frank, one of his missions is not to do what we're already paying our town management staff to do, which is to supervise contractors, with the exception, of course, of what he's been doing forever, and that's the relationship with the garbage monitoring, the garbage problems, and things like that. That's worked for us for many years and seems to be very effective. But I don't want to see him out there doing that if, to me, that's a job we're already paying for. And like I said, if we want to take out the practice of renting equipment, that's fine. But you should know maybe where it came from and what the reasoning was, to do that.
Jim, my complaint was it's not in the contract. In other words, we've been allowed to have it, but it wasn't. So if we're gonna allow it to continue, then it needs to be in the contract. But I like the contract just the way it is.
That's fine.
All around.
But I wanted to, let the council thought about, we don't have Frank doing what I think is already part of the contract we're paying for. Then you're paying double dipping.
Now, was that one of the items listed in these contracts, Mark?
Well, the only thing I would respond to in that regard is, as you know, we're doing a lot more contracts, we have a lot more vendors out there. I know it's an easy thing to say that the management company, that's part of their responsibilities, but, and you've heard us say this many times, we need to have eyes and ears out there. Now, I'm not your usual manager too, because I'm out there a lot, checking on things and going around. But I don't have the time to be out there 35 hours a week, running around making sure the contractors are doing the job. So, now you're talking about a complete paradigm shift as to how you want to do services if that's the case. And I would suggest that's a much broader discussion, maybe for a different time as opposed to this contract. Or unless if you want to have it in this contract, but it's really something we have to talk about. We're doing a lot more services than we ever were.
Okay.
And it just, I'd like to cut myself up and be, 5 different places at a time, but that's not going to happen.
The problem with that is, there's a lot of things that we have in contract not being done as far as I'm concerned. Having contractors or running a town that has contractors should be anticipated responsibility that you're going to have to cover the vendor. But if we added 10 more contractors, it's one of those things that it's dependent on what the operational requirements are. You're going to manage contractors. But my point is that I think we've already extended or increased the cost of management for certain things that have drawn on your time, additional services, you may call them. I call them extension of what you already. Well, we've added some workloads, authorizations, and this to me is kind of a subtle way of adding more money to the town management. It's like a resource we paid them for, and they have it now to use to do what they were paid to do. So that's my perspective is I just don't see we should be paying for that when we should already be getting it. And we are paying for some other services or some other things that have been identified as extra, and we're paying for them as extra. I think we've gone to the well more often than I'd like, and just something that, it kind of came to a head with our recent contractor when they needed a lot of oversight, and it's another issue about why the oversight, but we won't go into that again. But I just think we don't need to have Frank doing that, and much better use of his time more here to what he's had in the past and solving problems, and not just sit and babysit the contract.
Okay, it doesn't really affect this, but it sounds like something we need to bring up at a future meeting.
I would say that the scope of services, number 6 and 7, is what the things that Jim and Jim mostly suggesting doesn't want Frank to do is what we put in the scope of services that he was supposed to. So if we cannot do that, then that should change. I don't personally support that, but if you want to talk about changing the contract, that's what needs to be done. So that it's clear what people can and can't do.
Sure. Well, if somebody wants to make a motion to change this contract, then now's the time.
Well, I would make a motion that we exclude from these items, specifically the supervision of contractors, with the exception of Waste Pro,
Okay, is there a line here in this contract or scope that we would need to change?
Well, if it's in the area where we say assistant Madison Public Works, we could put in there another sentence that says this excludes supervision of contractors, but would include, and I think we have many places where we obviously spend a lot of time describing what the services relative to waste product will be. I don't know if we need to clarify that any further. I think it's in there.
You probably at the end of 7 could do a semicolon, say, or a comment that's but excluding, and whatever item you want to put there.
At the end
At
of that,
the end of 7.
I make such a motion to change that.
Okay, so we're going to add a line basically saying that we will not be supervising subcontractors.
Yes, it seemed like that would allow him still to do everything he's
Yeah, we
doing
need
on.
clarification here. He doesn't supervise contractors. What he does is he monitors contractors at my request.
All right, then I'll change the wording to does not monitor contractors.
I don't think it's a wise decision.
All right.
Well, okay, I don't believe we have anything that has to do with that, Mike. Help me out here, show me where it's at. There's nothing that has to do with monitoring in this contract. Now, I believe that we definitely need to bring it up at a later date. That's waste monitoring, and that's what we initially hired Frank for. That was to monitor garbage pickup, garbage hauling and stuff like that. So I don't have a problem with him monitoring, especially if a resident has a problem and management can't solve it. Now, I believe a lot of problems can be solved by management making phone calls to Waste Pro or different places. But that's beside the point. But if Frank is out there, for an example, I believe he still rides the roads 2 days a week with garbage pickup. Does he or does he not? Now, I see him come through after they pick up garbage.
Most of his monitoring is on the days of pickup or when he's reacting to complaints, as you had requested last year.
Right. And the truth of the matter, he's getting paid $26.50 an hour, $26.25 to do that. Now, hey, what I'm thinking, and we can discuss it, we don't need to discuss it tonight, but when it comes to monitoring, if we got a contractor hedging a road, he's not going to quit hedging on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Most of the time they'll work 7 days a week. Okay, while Frank's out monitoring the garbage, making sure everything was picked up, he can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. We don't have to pay for 2 things, and you can't tell me that if he was out monitoring the road on a Wednesday and you wanted him to go check on the edger and stuff, that he's never done that now. Or if he hasn't, then I'm surprised. So that's what I'm getting at. We can discuss the monitoring part later. I don't see, the only monitoring I see in this contract, and I don't have a problem with this contract, is waste monitoring. And that's totally different. We have a hurricane and stuff, somebody's gonna have to watch them, somebody's gonna have to sign for tickets. Frank can do an outstanding job there. He knows waste better than anybody here. But like Jim said, there's certain things that I don't believe need monitoring unless we have no other choice. So the contract to me is fine.
All right. We have a motion to add another line.
But you're excluding monitoring contractors.
Okay. Is there a second to that?
Well, I like to add excluding getting paid to monitor a contract. In other words, if Martin wants to, no, that's my problem, is him getting paid. Okay, when he's also getting paid to monitor the waste and stuff like that.
So if he monitors, then he doesn't get paid for that?
Well,
I
first,
don't want to do that.
no,
You can't.
Mark said he might want to send him out a check.
You
Okay.
can't put something in there that would require him to do anything
Well, but
non-payment.
and I say leave it alone, and we discuss the situation
There is
with
some
Frank monitoring contractors at a later.
Definitions and words are going to mean things here because, like, for example, when we send him out to check on a manure issue, I mean, would you call that monitoring?
Well, let me just, you have that, you have enforcement of manure. What you have is that when you expanded the definition of public works, I think it was last year,
That's correct.
you did include but not limited to, and then you listed things, and when you use include not limited to, that's give flexibility for similar type items to what falls in that list. And so you have monitoring of solid waste, and you have an item called related transportation issues. And so I think in fairness to the management company, I provided them some flexibility to use them when they saw fit for that type of thing. So if it's too broad and you want to narrow it, then the motion would fix that. But if you want to provide for that, and they if it's just that what you're kind of looking at and maybe discussing at the future meeting, you wouldn't need that change. But if you want to address that tonight, you would add that because of the including but not limited to, you want to be sure that you address the issue.
All right. So we have a motion. Is there a second? Going once, going twice? Ayes for lack of second. All right. Now we get back to the original. We need a motion to accept section 2C that we took out of the consent agenda.
And that would be for both the two and Taylor,
Both
Shire
contracts.
as provided. From what I understand, no amendments hereby.
Right.
I'll make a motion that we accept 2C.
Okay, Ron makes a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it with a slight modification, which is that both on each of these renewals will run for 1 year.
But that's what they did, run to the next, the end of the next fiscal year. So
There's a
number
clarification.
All right. All right, we have a motion in a second. Discussion, I've got John Ryan. Was this the item?
No, it was adding that agenda item you added.
Oh, okay, okay. Good deal. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Passes 4-0. Okay, moving to public comments. What's that?
Yes.
5-0.
5-0. What did I say? 4-0? 5-0.
Thank you.
I get,
Well,
have to retrain my brain. All right, moving to public comments. I've got no cards for public comments. In the first phase, you'll have another phase later on. All right, moving to committee reports and financial committee.
Virginia Standish reporting for the financial committee. July financials 2013, and this is consensus, everything I say here is a consensus of the committee. July financials were approved 4-0, ending bank balance was $3,070,326.69.
That's the question.
I think something important needs to be pointed out in that dollars continue to be transferred from the general funds to revenue side, keep revenues and expenses in balance. I'd like you to take note that in June, the total amount transferred equaled $400,000. As of July, this was increased by $123,752 to now read $523,752 being reported on your revenue side that is not true revenue. It is money being pulled from other funds to balance the revenue and expenses. You need to be very aware of this because technically your revenues are declining. It is also the consensus of the committee that they are suggesting that the town manager bring in a consultant, either a professor or someone from the Florida League of Cities, to offer instruction on effective and efficient government and the benefits thereof. They would also like the town council to consider incorporating community events that improve the quality of life for residents, and also please encourage real estate brokers to research and provide financial resources and information to potential buyers. People are coming in and very frustrated because they don't know their options in buying in this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Virginia. All right, we need a motion to accept.
I make a motion to accept the July financial report.
Okay, Jim makes a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that and make one comment. In addition to what Virginia is talking about, there's been a reduction over the course of the last 3 months in our actual cash balances, not questioning which pocket it's in. All the pockets together, there's 150,000 at least less than there was 2 or 3 months ago. So we're spending down versus staying up. I was having here the bank statements for the past 6 months. It's not a good trend if you look at it.
Thank you, Tom. A motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0.
Mr. Mayor, one of the points that Virginia was making, I don't want to speak for her, but I think from my conversation with representatives on the Finance Committee, the idea of the council, from the town's perspective, working with, say, some financial institution where people can buy land and have financing that, I don't know, that the town would certainly not underwrite the purchase or loan, but possibly provide a service to those that might want to buy by negotiating with a bank, or even our bank that's got all our money anyway and gives us very little return, that we might encourage them to have a plan, a program where they would loan money for land, because you know how difficult it is to borrow money for land. You borrow money for a house on land all day. And I think that was part of this, as I understand it, that's at least part of what the conversation was addressing, and it would help, probably help with values out here. It would help us continue, if you would, those that are interested in say, building a home, to start by buying property, and I know we all encourage that. I think that's along the line, and I don't know if our illustrious financial wizards might have any thoughts on that matter of how we might have that accomplished, or beyond, don't ever even think about that, Jim, or I'm hoping for something different. Is there any possibilities that have ever been done that you know of?
Are you talking about setting up a lending?
Set
Because
up any agreement?
we're prohibited by the Constitution from doing certain things.
Yeah, no, it's to find someone, like a banking institution, that would take an interest in our community and set up a loan program only for buyers. And we have nothing to do with it, but it's just to find somebody that might, do that. Maybe somebody out there. But the point is, if somebody wants to come here and buy land and then build, I think its intention is, the idea was to try to help property values, but ultimately help people come in here and expand homes. But I'm sure it's out there somewhere, and maybe it's nothing more than identification to who has it, and then we can make the information available to everybody that comes in here. This is where you can go for
I just think
land.
you'd be careful to balance that with endorsing a certain bank or a certain program.
Right, well, that's what I was trying to say that, so,
It would seem to me more something the real estate agents of this area want to be doing, and if they want something from us, but other than loan guarantees, I don't see us doing that.
well, I understand that, but I mean, if it was as simple as asking realtors and they would to do that, I think the finance committee would have accepted that as an answer, but I don't think it's that simple. I'm just asking, is there any ideas out there? Obviously, we're not endorsing it, obviously, we're not underwriting it, it's just a,
Those would be my only two concerns.
Okay. All right, yeah, and I don't know what the answer is. Bill, you have a comment?
Mayor, council, I can only give you my past experience. There was legislation passed a long time ago, a special act that provided a city $1 million. That $1 million was then leveraged roughly 25% to 75%. And then that city worked with a consortium of banks to provide funding that the city would guarantee 25% based on the $1 million, and the banks would come up with the other 75%. And that program, to my knowledge, is still working today, and they have built, 50, 75 homes, maybe 100 homes. But that's the only program I'm aware of. You got to have seed money to start. There may be a consortium of banks that are doing that kind of program now. I don't know. I think with the housing crisis that occurred in 07, 08, that most banks were very fearful, and they would want more than a 25% protection by the government. But the programs do exist, and I suspect I would urge that the council talk to the legislative delegation and or Tallahassee legislature to request a bill. I think the bill was 3 sentences. It says we're going to give money here to this housing program. The city's got to, there was actually 4 cities, got to pick what kind of housing. One city built rental income homes. What we did was basically become a bank and work with a consortium of banks. There's different alternatives. It does exist.
Okay.
yeah, it's not a directive to do something, it was scratching the surface. And I believe it was something that the finance committee was interested in. I don't know if you've got enough to maybe chew on where you can get something from Bill to say who's doing it or how it was done, if you guys want to take it further.
I think we can, Lieutenant Combs had a great suggestion of starting with the Chamber of Commerce. And even just interviewing some of the real estate brokers and just coming back with some ideas for the town council. I'll bring that up at the next meeting.
I would just be glad to get realtors. In the past, one of our biggest problems were realtors that presented our community as what it wasn't, because they tend to promise everybody whatever they want. So, you know, if a person was saying, are there going to be sidewalks, or are there going to be, and the realtor would say, sure, won't be long. And, you know, so we would get people coming to the landowners years ago, with the Water Control Board, you know, when is our road slated for sidewalks or pavement or whatever, and we would say it's not on the budget. But anyway, all right, I think it's something that, I don't know that I envision our town becoming a bank or anything like that. We want to keep it simpler, not more complicated. Okay, moving to 6A. Mike?
Mr. Mayor, this is your first public hearing to adopt your tentative millage and your preliminary budget, and the budget as well. The statute requires that you have this public hearing, and the first order of discussion is your millage, including a discussion of what you propose to set it at, as well as what that would mean for your rollback rate. And based on that discussion, whether there's an additional threshold voting requirement on the statute, we would discuss prior to adopting the resolution. And then secondary to that is the discussion of the budget. That is done by separate resolution. The reason that's done second is you need to adjust your budget to whatever the millage rate that you decide on is set as you're proposing your tentative millage tonight. Your second public hearing is proposed to take place at your next meeting on September 17th. The resolution already provides for that. So I turn it over to Bill to go over the millage initially and the discussion and direction from you on how to proceed.
Okay. Bill?
Okay. Mayor, council, basically what staff presented was a millage rate of 1.50 mils, which is 16.8% above the rollback rate, which is 1.2845. In order to get that, to approve that millage rate, we have to have it would have to be unanimous by this council. The next level, which would require 4 out of 5, is a millage rate of 1.413. Each tenth of a mil, each 0.1 mil is worth about $16,000. And the current budget is structured such that this provides sufficient revenues to do everything we think you want to do, and it leaves about $31,000 in contingency. And I guess the first substantial issue would be the public opening it to the public for their comments or discussions relative to a 1.50 mils. Has nothing to do with the prior conversations, but the millage rate is needed to accomplish the goals that the council has set with police protection, with planning, zoning, roads, streets, etc.
All right, so do we open up for public comment first?
Well, I think you all can have a discussion. You do have to have public comment before you take any action as a motion or whatnot.
Okay.
I do want to also note on the record that back in July, there was a question about the revenue sharing threshold, and the council had directed and given an opportunity for us to engage the FDOR on the question of whether our special act and the list of revenues, the town can continue to use that list as opposed to the limited list of the statute. And the Florida Department of Revenue advised us last week that the way that the town's special act is written, that they can continue to rely on the list that's in our special act for revenue sharing. It's a different issue than what you need to fund the town, but wanted to make you aware of that we did get that. There's another small town that has almost identical language as ours, and that's the way they've been administering their special act. And so I did provide that information to you in writing, but I want to put it on the record since it was asked on the record back in July.
Okay. All right.
A number of things. The last time we talked about going from 1.2 to 1.5, as I recall, it was only to hold on to revenue sharing, only. That was the big deal. We would lose more of the revenue than we would possibly add. Now here, it's really to support the budget we have. Well, that's not the answer. We only raised it on the condition that we had to raise it. Now, from what Mike has found out in the work that he did with the Department of Revenue and what we have a copy of, that is not the case. You do not have to raise it 1.2 to 1.5. First. Second, when I get my tax notice, it didn't say anything about 1.5. Not a word. It just said 1.2.
I don't recall it, it wouldn't say that.
It says that under the column, it says if proposed budget change is made, this is your millage.
It says your millage or your dollar value.
1.2, what does that mean to you?
Be the millage. I have not
That's what's
seen
under
it.
that.
I have not seen it.
So I have no idea how we send out tax notices that we said for preliminary it should be 1.5, and they went out as 1.2. Maybe the Lord was looking over his shoulder because, well, what we need to do is hold it at 1.2, and that we've already told the people of the community that we ought to just keep it there. If there's a budget shortfall, we'll pull it out of reserves. Because we talked about that in all the discussions, that it was only there to solve the issue we have with DOR. Now, the other thing that we don't have in front of us, and I think you can tell us off the top of your head, in essence, if we include water management district taxes in this calculation, our millage could be 0.
Well, I think at that meeting I indicated that if that is accurate with the billions of dollars South Florida Water Management Control District has, it is a water control district, that item would allow you to do 0, and there's no requirement you do any millage rate as long as you generate enough money. But
Okay.
now that you don't have to generate any money, you can make it 0.
I'm not interested in 0 at the moment. I don't think the council would go to 0, although I'd love to go to 0. And I'd love to reduce it to 1.0. But rather than, I guess I'll just take the good information that we have, the good findings that we have, is that Mike was very successful in his negotiating. And make the millage 1.2, as we had last year, hold it the same, and that's what we adopt tonight as a millage 1.2.
Do you have a copy of the trim notice that?
Yeah, but I can give it to you guys, this is personal.
I'd just like to.
Tom, if you want to say something?
Now, this was brought to my attention, and I didn't have an answer. It would have been nice to know and be able to answer people.
Yeah, I noticed in the paper it went out as a 1.2 also.
This is the kind of thing that we need to know of, and we need to have answers to when it's happening.
Okay. So Jim, that was in the form of a motion?
Keep the motion to make our millage hold it at 1.2. I'd like to drop it, but I understand I don't want to fight it
We have a
for
motion
people.
for 1.2. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Ron seconded. Discussion by the public.
You, just before you vote, now that you've got it, it's the millage there, we need to actually give you the roll-up, roll-back rate as part of the discussion.
Okay.
So give us just a second to give you that information on the record.
All right, let's take 5 minutes.
Well, okay.
We can't take a break in the middle of the public. Anyone, sir?
Stand up.
Yeah, we're giving them 5 minutes or whatever. Hey, Sheriff. Jacob. which means
I can go on the record. It's,
okay. Got ready to get back to it? See what Tom goes in.
You're saving?
Okay. Call it back into session. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Mike, you would explain with the rollback and stuff?
Yes, if you adopt a 1.20 millage rate, it would be a decrease of 6.58% from the rollback rate, which is 1.2845 according to Mr. Underwood. Is that correct? So those are the figures that you would have to place into the resolution and indicated places that the proposed millage would be 1.20. It would be a decrease. It says right now an increase. Have it. Decrease of 6.58% from the 2012-13 rollback millage rate of 1.2845.
845.
Thank you, 845. That would be the motion on the table.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Ron, comment?
Just a comment then what kind of figures you gotta come up with to not have a decrease? In other words,
If you want to tax get the same revenue last year, your rate would go up, but it's not a tax increase, but your rate would be 1.2845. You get the same amount of revenue as you had last year.
Okay. All right. So we have a motion and a second for 1.2. John Ryan?
By the way, John Ryan, one of the people that pointed this out to you too. Check your tax notes.
John Ryan, 3508 A Road. Just to follow up on Bill's comments and put things in perspective, if you look at page 62 of tonight's agenda packet, it has the detail that Bill was referring to, that the current presented budget, it shows a contingency, which is really in excess of planned revenue over expenditures of $31,426. Now, the perspective that I think is worthwhile is that if you change the millage from 1.5 to 1.2, you're effectively reducing the ad valorem revenue by $49,324. So you could almost say that you don't have a $49,000 hole in your budget if you reduce it from 1.5 to 1.2. If you eliminate the contingency and rely on your reserves, you could just change your budget by about $17,000 or $18,000.
And I got an answer to the 17 or 18 when we get there.
Okay.
Thank you, John. All right. So we've got a motion and a second. Tom?
I'd like to just point out that it is somewhat dubious what the Department of Revenue said. And I didn't vote for the increased millage, and probably would vote for a number lower than 1.2 for Jim's info. But if it was a concern, I would like everybody over there to tell me it's not anymore. Or just so I know, so I can vote. I'd like to see that it isn't a concern, that whatever we got from the Department of Revenue, they're willing to say, yeah, guys, we'll take the fall if this happens, because it's us who's going to lose out on pretty much all the town's revenue if this becomes a problem in the future. So I'd just like to ask if these folks.
I can tell you this, that the Department of Revenue does not give formal opinions like the Attorney General's office. I had several conversations with the General Counsel. Mark sat in on a couple of them. In fact, on all of them, because the only one I had without Mark was to set up the first call. when she reported back to us last week on the result of their review, she had used the same folks that handle this issue from the Department of Revenue and the entire teams, because she wanted to make sure that as we progressed through, it got the same advice, it was handled the same as that other town in Brevard, Grant in Bulgaria, that everybody would be treated the same. And so her advice was that that's the case, because our charter language is practically identical to that of the other town. They're a couple of years ahead of the town as far as the previous, even the deadlines, they were the same. The ones that had years and the ones that didn't, they're a couple of years ahead. They've been allowed to use that revenue because it is a special act, and they recognize exceptions were made for them, like in Loxahatchee, in order to allow an incorporation. And that there were other exceptions in the special act there as here to allow for the incorporation. Because they recognize the concern of a small city not being able to get revenue, the same as the larger ones from the limited one in the statute. So is it an ironclad guarantee? I can never give you that because I don't have that from them, but I can tell you that was my interpretation of special act. That was their interpretation of special act, and it took them about a month to review it with their team up there to confirm for us that that was the reading that would be applied. And they don't expect to have any issues with it as we move forward.
Okay. What was the other town?
Grant, Bulgaria, it's in Brevard County.
Grant, what?
Bulgaria.
Wait a minute, too many is here.
It's a hyphen.
That page,
Written sentence, just get it back.
All right,
I can't see it.
we have a motion and a second,
one more comment.
okay?
I was hoping Jim might change the motion to 1.2845. In other words, I'd like to keep it the same.
No, when it goes in.
Okay, all right.
You can't,
I'll make it 1.0.
I could go through what you need to do that now that the trim notice at 1.20, if you needed me to, but.
You know what, the trim notice went out at 1.20, I think it's important to
Good,
understand.
good point, good point.
One of the comments, kind of indirect to the subject, but we got a lot of support from our community, specifically from the Ryans. Elise spent many hours researching a lot of things. John spent a lot of time researching a lot of things. We got information that whether Mike used it, needed it, or whatnot, but a lot of research went on to show that our interpretation was correct, and I wanted to publicly acknowledge the support that they provided. Not that it would necessarily change anything, but I have a suspicion it may very well contributed to our success.
Okay. Thank you, John. Thank you, Elise. All right,
Relief more than me.
Mr. Mayor, the motion on the table is just for set the millage, and I'll read the resolution title. I'll have to take a second vote to adopt the resolution. But the first motion is to confirm it.
right, okay, just on the village.
Correct.
All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0.
Okay. Resolution 2013-10, resolution of the town of Loxahatchee Groves, Florida, establishing the tentative millage for the town of Loxahatchee Groves, Florida, pursuant to the budget summary for the fiscal year 2013-2014 in accordance with Chapter 200 of Florida statutes as amended, setting forth a date, time, and place for the second and final public hearing to adopt the town's millage rate for the fiscal year 2013-2014 and directing publication notice thereof, providing for severability, conflict, and effective date. And for the record, this resolution does set the second budget village hearing for Tuesday, September 17th, 7 p.m. in this room.
All right. Okay, moving to,
Got to vote on it.
we did.
Oh,
we did?
You have to vote on the resolution. You only voted to put the information in first.
Gotcha, all right. Entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Ryan makes the motion.
Second?
Second by Ron. Further discussion?
On the specific budget, which is what we're talking about, adopting a budget, no?
This is still the millage.
It's still the village.
You do the millage, then we'll open it up and do another presentation on budget, another public hearing, and adopt the budget.
We voted for the millage.
I know.
No, you only voted to put it in the resolution, now you have to approve the resolution. I'm sorry, but it's
No,
a
that's
two-step
fine.
process.
Okay.
All in favor, sorry.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? None by the public? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Moving to 6B.
This is your public hearing on your tentative budget. You'll have to set your budget to match your tentative millage of 1.200. At this time, I'll turn it over to Mr. Underwood.
Honorable Mayor, Council, I provided a memorandum August 21. And as I understand the council's decision thus far, you established a solid waste assessment rate of $324.37 per year per residential household that you will be reaffirming next week. And for solid waste, to the best of my knowledge, is a budget and enterprise fund that you've handled and is under control. At previous meetings, you addressed the capital improvement program, which impacted transportation fund and general fund. And what I've tried to outline there is that what we're proposing is with changes in the capital improvement plan that the council approved, is we're going to consume 5-cent gas tax, $437,000. We're going to consume 6-cent gas tax fund balance, $419,191. That will leave about $300 in 5-cent, and you're going to consume all of the 5-cent next year for your capital program. It'll leave $49,000 roughly for the 6-cent at the end of the year, and you'll have $300 left in the 5-cent. So you're going to consume, we have an estimate for next year, the gas tax that you're going to get about $117,000. You're going to use that $117,000 to fund the CIP. With that, I think that is pretty settled unless you want to make more changes in the CIP. We think transportation, solid waste is in good shape. The one item that there has not been a lot of discussion is the general fund. And tonight, before you, with the actions that you just took, if you eliminated the contingency fund, you would either have to find additional expenditures of $17,896 to eliminate, or draw that from your fund balance in the general fund. With that, I guess we're ready for any discussion the council may have relative to the budget.
Okay, Tom?
I would make a suggestion, unless this has been reserved for a specific reason, I don't recall how this put down in the budget. Lobbyist services for both sides, $30,000 each. What is that?
It was a request, we took requests from council members during the budget process.
What does for both sides mean? That we're going to argue against ourselves, or what?
You have one group in Tallahassee and you have one group in Palm Beach County. Both groups would have different allegiances to different areas. And depending on who you hire, you would get positive or negative response to your requests without going into party politics.
What,
I think that would be an easy one not to spend.
I just wonder.
The town has not had good past experience with a lobbyist. So anyway, Jim,
I have an easier way to not spend. That's certainly an option to take out. I looked at our legal expenses line that we put in the budget. We had $60,000 this year, and we put $120 in. I would take legal from 60 to 90. Our runway right at this year suggests anyway that it would be only 90 this year. That was something we added a lot of money to a line. It's a very difficult line to forecast. I would take it down 30,000, make it 90, put the 30,000 net difference into contingency, then you end up with a $13,000 contingency, that would balance your number. But before I forget, can you give me the new revenue number from millage?
The new revenue would be 197, 297,
197, 2,
297.
297.
$197,297.
Okay, which is a great number, under 200,000, looks good. Anyway, that was my recommendation to the council, let me just go ahead and certainly Mike can comment whether it's not a personal challenge to him. It was looking at how far we went from 60 to 120. I don't think we need to go that far. We can postpone dipping into our reserves, at least at this point in the budget. And later on in the year, if we find we need whatever we need, it's not like we haven't made some budget changes in the past, we'll do that again. I'd like to go forward with.
I would just note, you know, and that's true, your general work, I mean, it's you know, pretty forecastable. It's been, you know, high this year because there's been additional contracts at some points and then it contracts and whatnot. But I think that's easier to forecast. But you can't forecast the unexpected. You know, if you get, you know, more litigation or you have complex projects that come up that we're not involved with now, that can affect the bottom line there as well. But it's hard to say that we would need to be a full 120. But just with the caveat that if things were to come up, you would still need to have legal defense on things or legal advocacy. So.
But we did put $30,000 in there that we don't have this year. Is that correct? We have 60 this year in total, and next year we had asked for 90, 120. I'm thinking we can go 90, that seems to be an attempt at putting something extreme. And
I don't know.
more, you know, we got more.
I think this year is going to be, right now, you said it was 90 of July. 31st?
The budget amendment, we put 120,000 in for this year, 120,000 for next year. We're up over 90,000 right now.
You're probably going to hit 120, or very close. You can always cut it, and if you do a budget amendment partway through the year,
Yeah, I kind of like Tom's thought on that lobbyist. Ron?
Just to clear up about the lobbyists, I think the lobbyist was brought up when we were talking about the red light at Southern Indeed. The one reason I brought it up was because I had spoken with people in Tallahassee, legislators and stuff like that. And a while back, we used a lobbyist from the Water Control District, and he's one of the best known in Tallahassee and Palm Beach County. And basically, his rates, and this was coming from Indian Trail Water Control District, his rates was approximately $2,000 a month, which we've been, and he only charges, he's not on a, where you hold them. In other words, if he doesn't work for you that month, you don't pay for it. Now, I know some people are on contingencies or something where you pay an engineer whether he works for you or not. But this lobbyist only got paid for when he worked. And I've come to the conclusion, I believe lobbyists, and they have, the same lobbyist had fought for red lights where DOT did not want to put them. And he won. The politicians that I talked to felt like lobbyists was a good thing, but it comes down to if we're not willing to fight for the red light ourselves, and I'm talking about getting petitions signed and stuff like that, then we don't need to waste the money on the lobbyists. And I don't see a whole lot of people getting involved. I got to be honest with you. Now, I've probably got about 100, probably about between 50 and 75 signatures on a petition. I know that in the past we've got petitions up for different reasons, maybe good reasons, maybe bad reasons, and we've gotten thousands of signatures. But it seems like when we're fighting for a red light that would benefit the residents of Loxahatchee, people's not as interested. So that's where the lobbyists came in. I think we can forget about the lobbyists. If we don't get a red light, we don't get a red light.
Okay, all right. Any other discussion? I've got 2 more cards. John Ryan, and then Virginia.
Yes. John Ryan, 3508 A Road. Ron brought up one item that I had recalled too, that the lobbyists were brought up in connection with red light. But in terms of the amount, the district, when it used a very effective lobbyist, the one Ron's referring to for our local bill with regard cost was a project rate over the estimated number of months that amounted to $25,000. It was accounted for on an hourly basis, and I think it came in just slightly less than that. The reason I'd say that it would be worthwhile to keep some amount in for lobbyists is that the district does want to work with the town on a local bill this coming year to essentially, as part of our program of turning Ocean roads over to the town, both the current ones and any prospective ones, like B Road or Collecting Canal or any other roads that come into improvements. What we'd like to do is have the cooperation of the town, and I think with our program of turning the roads over to the town as this goes on, we'd like to get all of the district roads under a similar local bill, so we don't have the easement issues and the inability to record maintenance maps to the existing roads, not taking anybody's land, no title taking, just easements to confirm work on the existing road surface, and have that benefit both the district and the town. And I was thinking that I think the district's plan is like a 50-50 share of the local bill, because it is the district's responsibility under the current circumstance, but it's the program to turn the roads over to the town without going through the expense of additional easement getting, so to speak.
Thank you, Joe.
Yes, sir.
Just one comment to go with John, and we could have gotten a $200,000 grant for equestrian drills and stuff, but the only problem was we couldn't prove ownership or easement rights and stuff like that. So when you talk about holding the lobbyists or setting aside funds for something like that, that's something we definitely need to work on this year. We need, if we can get back to where we can get everything straightened out with the roads and stuff, and we can improve easement rights, then I like getting grants.
Okay, Virginia? Thank you, Joe.
I didn't know if Tom had a question.
Not a question, but a comment on what you said. I'd like to agree that maybe we do need to leave some lobbying money there, because that's certainly what John's talking about is a very worthy project I'm in favor of. Okay. Yeah, I'm also in favor of Ron's now that he tells me the purpose. I signed this petition. He can't complain about that. So, I agree with him as to the need for the traffic light.
I think I said it.
We're talking about Okeechobee? We're talking about the first traffic light on Okeechobee? Virginia Standish, I'm being sarcastic.
Not the
Virginia Standish 15410 North Road. Gentlemen, I speak for myself, I do not represent the Finance and Accounting Committee. Let me start backwards in what I had to say regarding this budget. And I'll start with Waxahachie Groves Water Control District. Since its inception, it has had no respect for the landowners of this community. It has continued to take land through grading aggressively and dump water illegally. And yet here we are listening to how the town and the water district agreed to Ojum roads before turning them over to the town. That makes no sense whatsoever. There's no reason those roads should have been Ojum before being turned over to the town. I have yet to understand why you did that. But anyway, you did that, and I think that was a very poor decision, and you may find it comes back to bite you on that one. As far as the lobbyists, those maps have existed for years showing you where those easements were. If y'all need a lobbyist to get you those easements, then you're in big trouble. It's just an excuse to justify the need for a lobbyist, to get the horse trails, which no one seems to go out of their way in this town to get for the community, except dangle it as a carrot to get the Ojum roads. Now, let's look at your council recommendation of $1,802,000. It's fantastic that you're finally considering surveying the roads, especially after the way the water district has chopped them up. Of course, you'll be taking a lot of landowners' land with this House bill that was, I believe, was $50,000, really a taxpayer's money that was used. The $250 for the light on Okeechobee, that was an existing promised light that people who've lived here would love to see before D Road, and that is probably why you're having a hard time with Southern Boulevard, because people are tired of being promised things and things looked into and then, oh, let's throw some Ojum here and change the plan. Then we have, let's see, more Ojum. Here's 80,000 for trails, that might be a good idea, and 28,000 to purchase roads from the Waxahachie Groves Water Control District. Let's throw some more money their way. My point, gentlemen, is out of $1,800,000 in 1 year, you've got 1.3 for roads and very little for the rest of the community. Now, you might say, yes, roads support the community, this and that. Let's remember there are other people in this community that want other things, and that could be why you're really starting to see resentment. And you know, you keep saying you want different people to come to these meetings. I'm sure you do. But some of us now have the time to keep coming and listening and seeing the pattern of what's going on here. So the idea of a lobbyist, that might serve some special interests. I doubt if it's really going to serve the entire community. Thank you.
Thank you, Virginia. All right, ready for a motion on this?
Just make sure no one else wants to speak.
All right, I've got no other cards. Virginia, what's your other item for?
That's public at the end.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that we reduce the budget by 30,000 out of legal and just let the balance fall into, reduce legal 30,000, let the balance flow into cover the shortfall on millage as a contingency, which is approximately 13,000 contingency, approximately.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ron. Further discussion? All right,
And that will balance the budget.
To balance the budget.
yeah. Not all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Do we need a roll call or anything for this?
As long as it's
All
not
in
this
favor?
motion.
Yeah. Any opposed, same sign? Budget passes 5-0.
Okay, we'll read through the resolution.
Okay.
Resolution 2013-11, a resolution of the Town Council, Town of Waxahachie Coast, Florida, adopting a tentative budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2013, and ending September 30, 2014. Setting forth the date, time, and place for the second public hearing for the adoption of the town's budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2013, and directing publication thereof, and notice thereof, providing for severability, conflicts, and effective date. And for the record, your public hearing will also be for your final budget hearing Tuesday, September 17th at 7 p.m. in this room.
All right.
One other comment to make, by adopting a budget, we pretty much have decided on holding our solid waste numbers where it is, because we would have to take money out of some other place to supplement the solid waste costs.
Right.
Like we did. Now, we got caught into a, we gave money last year, cut by $100,000, which I think we cut, I'm sorry, the rate by about $100 per person. And we did that on purpose. We knew that we wouldn't necessarily be able to repeat that, but it was, I think, still a good idea. And I'd like to be able to do it again, but because we seem to be so narrow in our contingency, if we had $30,000 or $40,000 contingency, I might have suggested that we help pay that down a little further. It is an increase from last year, but it's a reduction from where it would have been last year without the $100 per person. So we may have made some progress, which is more permanent progress, without having to supplement and cover that. But we are closing the door, I believe, on that to take any further action next week, if that's correct.
Yeah, I think so, unless you change the budget around to cut something else, if we decided next week to do that, then you would have to find more money within this existing limit.
And my thought on this is there was kind of a strange situation. The rest of the county property values went up. Ours went down. We really don't know the reason, but, you know, I think next year it'll probably correct and come back up. So, you know, I think we'll have, you know, everything will be taken care of. But anyway, all right, moving to, oh, we need to vote again on this one?
That's for the resolution. Yeah.
All right, ready motion for the resolution.
Roll call on it?
I'll make a motion for this.
Okay, Ryan makes a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ron. Further discussion?
You do roll call.
Okay. Roll call vote.
So, Mayor Dave Browning,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Ron Darrell,
Yes.
Councilman Tom Wilson,
Yes.
Councilman Ryan Mann,
Yes.
Councilman Jim Law.
All right, moving to administrative update. Mark?
Thank you, John. The first thing I wanted to advise the council, you may remember, council authorizes staff to move forward with another workshop on Southern Boulevard. Just wanted to remind the council, for those interested in attending, that workshop is being held Thursday, September 5th, 7 o'clock at the Palm Beach County Chamber of Commerce in their community room. I'm pleased to tell you that we'll have a couple of representatives from Stantec, which is the engineering company that FDOT is using to assist them in terms of the PD&E study, the pond siting, all those aspects of the 6 lane of Southern Boulevard. So they'll be there to answer some questions. I think it'll be a good forum for people to both give us input and to get any questions answered that they may have. The second item I wanted to tell you about is we are making some progress with the FEMA firm maps. As you know, I told you about our July 31st meeting that we had in West Palm Beach, technical meeting with the FEMA reps who were down from Atlanta. And as a result of a lot of good work from a number of people throughout the county, FEMA, and also I think our congressional delegation, what has happened is FEMA has extended the deadline. They've stopped the public outreach meetings that were to start in September. And now we have until November 30th, 2013 to provide them additional information. Now, most of the technical experts will tell you that's still not enough time. It gives us some wiggle room to work. And through Ken Todd of the county and Richard Radcliffe from the League of Cities, they're kind of spearheading the approach. There's a two-pronged assessment that we're kind of doing to assist FEMA in terms of trying to change their opinion in terms of the way the maps stand as we speak. The first approach is modeling. They want to take a look at all the models used and review and explain why each model is either inappropriate or appropriate. And that's something that FEMA is willing to do. And then through AECOM, who is the consultant that FEMA is using, the second is the data issues. And with that, you're talking about model runs for each area, description of all structures that need to be incorporated, elevation certificates for areas that we believe do not flood, cross-sectional data, they prefer digital data, case numbers for any LOMARs. LOMARs are land map amendments that maybe weren't provided to FEMA. Somebody may have dropped the ball and not sent them that. All that information needs to be to AECOM by November 30, 2013. Now, in addition, the South Florida Water Management District is also revising a study they did on the C-51 canal, which our consultants tell us we believe that will be very helpful to us as we move forward. I know Ken Todd is getting ready to try to submit a letter with some of the data to FEMA by September 15th, and then following that up with one maybe by the end of October, and then one by November, with the goal to try to convince FEMA that even more time is needed. These maps have been 13 years in the revision, so there really is no need to hurry to make sure we have accurate maps and that everybody is dealing from a fair standpoint. I also attended a meeting today at the Central Palm Beach County Chamber of Commerce, and Ken Todd again approached the chamber, gave them where they're going. The chamber is looking at also getting involved. We're looking for our help as well in terms of moving forward and trying to get business owners and the commercial side of this revved up because of what the impacts it may have on them as well. So at this point, I wanted to tell you that things are moving our way. It's costly because we have to pay for our engineers, but we are making progress. And hopefully we'll get this overturned to the point where not 85 or 90% of the town is all of a sudden flooded. So with that, I have one other item, and I'll close out my report. The other item is I just wanted to inform council that I received a code enforcement complaint, which I have acted upon, and I've asked our code enforcement vendor to move on. However, it's not from an individual, it's from an association. It's the Waxahachie Groves Landowners Association. There is some concern. The complaint is a little bit concerned about making the complaint and having any kind of retribution. It's a property, it's on Groover Lane. The issues discussed were the concerns that we're going to be looking at. They're not all code enforcement concerns. Some of them do venture into the health, safety, and welfare matters that might be addressed by the sheriff's office, but the concerns identified in this complaint are food and alcohol being sold from a residential building, health issues due to public urination, excessive noise, unsafe number of people in a building at one time, public intoxication, trespassing on private property, sleep-off drunkenness, and allegations of sexual promiscuity. So the reason for telling you this is, as I said, I've been asked our code enforcement vendor to move forward. But I wanted to give it to you for two reasons. I certainly would like to get council's input that this is a kind of complaint that the town is willing to move forward on in the future as well. And something that I just wanted to bring to your attention, you know, we have these, I bet you probably we have almost one a week, and maybe that's not exaggerating, where people come in and have a problem, but don't want to exercise signing an affidavit of complaint and having a code enforcement problem. We had one today that came in that spoke with Ms. Underwood. So, I mean, it's something that's, it's ramping up. I mean, so I just want council to be aware of it, because it's something that we will probably have to deal with, or at least look at addressing maybe in a little different manner in the future. I'd be happy to address any questions.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Mark?
Yeah.
No?
Start, or would you please address the issue with attendance at the retag?
Oh, sure, thank you. Thank you for reminding me about that. We had a RETAG meeting last Wednesday, it was the first one in a couple of months, and part of the reason was after we reconstituted the roadway committee, we've had trouble getting quorums. We had to cancel one because it didn't occur like we were going to have a quorum. There are two members on the committee that have not been attending meetings, and I know Councilman Golson, they wanted me to bring it up as one of them is his appointee, but it seems that Patrick Painter and David Miles have not been attending the meetings, and it's kind of put the committee in a tough spot because Nina Corning, the chair, Kathy Straylow, and Bill Lauda have been, you know, attending very faithfully, but they start off being a board of three basically by virtue of the other members not attending. We're going to verify and double check, but I believe that based upon the resolution that adopted that committee, I think 3 meetings and you could appoint somebody else. I will verify that and bring it back to you on the 17th. But once again, I didn't want to hit you with that cold tonight, but that's something we might be asking you to address in a future meeting.
I would say you're going to need to talk to the two council members who are those, so that they can think in their mind of getting a replacement. You know, then you go right back to us, but that'll be I think probably what.
That would be me and Brian.
Okay. So I mean, that's good. Okay, Jim.
As gently as I can ask, how does 1-5 not make it? What is our process that would prevent it from not making it? When we checked on it, or we follow up? What do we do when we actually issue a millage, a proposed millage, and then make sure it's published? What is the process that we follow? Because it didn't make it, and I'd just like to know, one, certainly we learned from our mistakes, or something, we learned from something, experience, let's say, because I don't know whose mistake it was.
Well, I don't know if it's a mistake at this point, we gotta find out. I'm gonna be checking with the property commissioner tomorrow, because we've had 2 staff members, when we enter this data, we have one person enter it and another person checks it. And we did enter, and, you know, we looked at it, we entered 1.5 into the trim notice. That information goes to the property commissioner. So, you know, how it got to be 1.2 on a statement, I don't know. We're gonna call them tomorrow and try to find out and see, get the bottom of it, and just see what the situation is.
Okay. And I understand last year, Water Control District had some problems with the property appraiser's office, so it's not like it doesn't happen. But I don't know, do you have a follow-up process? I mean, it seems like something as important as this, you send it in, you do what you're supposed to do. It would, to me, it would seem like confirmation should be received back somehow. Maybe it's never been done before. But we're not that old, but we've never had a problem with what we proposed before. So I'd like to, if you'd look into at least what the option is to get confirmation that it's there the way you want it to be there. Second thing, question is to have you heard from Mr. Yee about the response as to if he wants to do something about that?
I haven't had a chance to, like I said, on top of it since our last meeting. I'll be doing that hopefully by this week, see if he's interested in moving forward with some kind of revision to the agreement as it relates to the same.
All right, well, here's my observation. There's no incentive, zip, zero, none, for Mr. Yee to come forward and do anything, because members of our council basically suggested it's okay. And the fact that part of the conversation was if it's okay with Mark, we shouldn't have a problem. Mark does not have the responsibility to say whether it's done or not. It's our responsibility. Now, I went over there just to see what the situation is. The guardrail, which is what their western border is, the section's been removed. It's not like there was a gate there. It's not like there was a field right next door and you just kind of bled over from one property to the next. This is blatant. And it comes from the same person, the same business that we've been having problems with. I don't believe Mr. Yee went out there and removed that thing, but it happened only as a result of concurrent business leasing. If we don't say to Mr. Yee, he needs to put that barrier back up the way it was, then we, in essence, are ignoring the law being broken. We as elected officials have responsibility. And I, for one, I'm not going to sit by and let that thing continue. Because I will be filing a request for code violation, but I'm bringing it up tonight because I want the council to tell you, or to tell me through you, if you will, that no, we will not enforce that code violation. We will not go back and enforce an ordinance that we inherited, whether we like it or not. It's a law. And I'm not going to be party to anybody that knowingly knows that there's a law being broken, that there's something being done wrong, that we let it go on. Looking the other way is not acceptable. If we didn't know about it, just learned about it, certainly have some time to figure out what we want to do. And we always can certainly say, you want to come forward and give us an alternative. But this is more than just a slap in the face. This is like a sharp stick in the eye. I don't care what you guys want to do, I'm going to do, and I'm speaking of the owner of that British hay, I'm going to do what I want to do. When you take that up barrier, you're not talking about just rolling across a field into having to go out another way. It had to be removed. We need to restore that barrier, restore the condition he has for that property. And if we want to consider as a council some kind of leeways or whatever we want to grant later on, but there would be no reason for Mr. Yee to start putting any money forward to say make a change if he's got they've got what they want. Secondly, I will also be filing a code complaint for the property next door, which is now turned into a storage facility for trucks. So if the council doesn't want me to do that, and it will tell you, direct you not to pursue my code violation, then I'd like them to do that tonight too. But I will do that. And I think it's wrong for us to sit and get a wink and a nod to something that's a blatant violation of a law that we have to enforce. We have a responsibility. We're not just a citizen. We are the municipal government of this community. And I don't think we can go and just ignore it. I don't think that's an option. So I will be doing that, and I leave it to the council to direct you not to abide by my request tomorrow or have some other input on it.
Oh,
I'd like to include that the plaza is supposed to have a particular percentage of offices. So when we're doing this action the gentleman contemplates, I hope we're also going to throw out some of the current people there and replace them with offices. Perhaps he can be on the committee that decides who gets thrown out. But while we're enforcing rules and laws, and Jim doesn't want to be aware of one without being aware of it, that is one that's also part of the conditions. It's an equal term and condition as the other, and we can't pick and choose them.
anybody else?
I'll file two. I'm not aware of the others, so I'll go over and while I'm there, I guess I can take up the information at the same time. So we have one person, somebody can write all their threatening letters they want to, and all the information they want to put in town crier. That's fine, you know. But the fact that we are doing some things that we're not thinking about as far as what the implications are. We've got two large commercial projects coming our way soon. If we demonstrate to them, no matter what your site plan says, it's okay. If you didn't get something you wanted, we'll look the other way. It doesn't matter. And the people of our community that we say we're gonna get a site plan, we're gonna give you an opportunity to approve it, and give us our input, your input, so that you like it and we can go along with it. But when it comes to, if somebody wants to change it, the contractor, it's okay. We won't worry about it. That is sending the absolute wrong message for this council. And I can't speak for the entire council saying any of those things. That's what it appears to be going on. So, I know they don't intend it to be that, but we've got to do something different. And I personally, I think I'm liable if I don't act in some capacity to get that thing rectified as a council person. So that's my reasoning. I bring it up as part of your administrative update because I wanted to know what was going on. And that's what I plan to do tomorrow. You'll see me.
Well, Your Honor, both council members are actually correct on that. The agreement that we gave you last meeting because of the email that was sent to the town, it's 5 pages. There are a number of conditions that were associated with that shopping center. Back in February and March, when we had sent Mr. Reed the notice of violation, part of that package was that development order that basically approved the center. Off the top of my head, I can't remember how many violations of all those conditions there were. There were, probably a good half a dozen.
Signs.
Yeah, I mean, some are minor and some aren't, but I mean, you can't start, violation to violation. I guess the point was, one of the reasons why we took the action at that time was the fact that, it's kind of been alluded to, obviously Southern Boulevard is our main commercial corridor, and, we're having meetings on it, we have, future development coming in, and, they do need to see something that's being, you need to enforce your codes, there's no question about that. So, I'll be happy to do whatever you want. We can bring it back if you want to examine the agreement, we can do that. My intention was to bring Mr. Yee in, because as I indicated to you last meeting, at one point he indicated that he didn't want to comply, and I told him, well, I was ready to stand down, so you don't have to. But, where he wants to go now, and at that time, he was contemplating, in addition to the Senate, or at least he was looking at making major modifications, and so I don't know if that's been on hold, and he was trying to make sure that he, try to get some appeasement for future development or what, but he's been pretty quiet until this latest email that came in. So, I'm going to set the meeting with him this week, and I'll be happy to, but if you do want to review that agreement, to look at all the conditions again, to go over it, we'll have to do that too as well.
Well, I think that's a question from the landowner. So I don't want them taking approvals and then deciding to review it without the landowner's participation in that process.
And I agree with you that that's the case, and I can't pick and choose either.
Absolutely.
I have to do the whole thing then,
Yeah, I think it gets back to where we left it the last time, is Mr. Yee needs to be advised that he's got this resolution that governs the use and development of his property. If he's either got to go along with that resolution, because that's what the town inherited, or he's got to seek some amendment to it through the proper channels. And we don't tell him what to change or advocate for anything. If he decides A, B, he'll fix C. That's what, but he needs to do that. Otherwise, he's got a resolution and a development order that needs to be complied with.
Tom?
And I would only say it would probably be nicer if Mark could try to work with Mr. Yee rather than the code enforcement things, but Jim certainly can do as he wants to do. And I think we would get a little bit farther pursuing the route of, voluntary cooperation versus code enforcement that's only going to cost us code enforcement dollars in the end. Because in the end, it's going to come down to they're going to have to make some changes to their development order. They're going to come to us. If Jim wants to precipitate that by following a code enforcement plan, I guess that's his right to do that. But I would believe that we already had set a course of action last time. And rather thwart our decided course of action, we have to allow that to take its course.
Okay, any other comments? Jim?
Two things. Yes, it was a suggested course of action. It was done by 2 of the 5 council members. I don't think that represented the council, so I brought it up tonight. Second, I think there's been plenty of ample time for something to be addressed, and nothing's going to be done unless we bring it to a head. But the way I described it, what you guys got to do is ride over it. You know, this is not just like a casual, oh, I rode over the grass type of thing. This is like, and there's no concern on the part of the property user and property owner. I'm sure will say, hey, if I make some money. But one other thing, if I may, unless there's response. Would you, Mark, include in the next meeting of our P&Z the change, one-line removal of foot traffic from our land use code as a discussion item, so next meeting by the council, we can bring that up as a change to our land use. All it is the one line, and whether P&Z, you know, they need to see it,
It's
we
scheduled,
need to,
I'm
we
sorry.
need to see it at the next meeting. If you're already gonna do that, I just would like to make sure that
It's
happens.
scheduled for the B&Z meeting of the 12th.
And then we'll see it.
I don't know if we'll have it by the 17th, it's a quick turnaround, I guess we might be able to get it done then, without, double check the advertising on it.
Well, it's not changing the permitted uses.
So it's not two public hearings. So,
So it
if
could-
you're willing to take it as an addendum, I mean, because it'll, you know, we'll probably have the agendas in the closer.
I mean, I think it was one of those things, let's just get it done, let's just
Yeah,
strike
I'm
it
not
down.
into getting it done, but this seems like another story.
So if you can make it work for the next meeting, a regular meeting, if we can take it up at first reading, at least maybe we get it done by October.
Well, here's the schedule we'll shoot for then, assuming, you know, P&Z doesn't table or anything. And I've asked them about, to be careful with that, you know, as far as tabling and things.
We have to be careful though, we're becoming an agenda item that's part of your report. So I mean, you know.
I'm sorry.
I mean, that's, you know,
The schedule you'll see is P&Z in the 12th. If you want it on the 17th, we'll get it on the 17th, and that means second reading would be in the first meeting after.
okay. All right, any other comments about the administrative?
That's it.
All right, and then just real quick, Jim, last meeting, there were just three of us, so it was a little different. Mine was not to help a business or anything else. Mine was just from a practical aspect, that I had nothing to do with the approval of that plaza or what they had to do to get it there. It just seemed strange that they put a guardrail between Mr. Yee's property and Mr. Yee's property. And, you know, and at the same time, I'm thinking from a safety aspect that as Southern begins to build out, I don't know that I want my wife trying to drive out on Southern, you know, to get back a little bit east to get to D Road and go home. So from a safety standpoint, all I was thinking of is it might be something that we want to address, and I might be open to that because I think from a safety standpoint, it might be good. I really wasn't looking to help out any business or anything else. It just seemed to me kind of a practical way. And I made the statement, not that I wanted him to keep it, I just said it was kind of handy driving out that way. So,
And I'm not doing it to benefit any particular person. In fact, I sort of see the issue here as directly against one person, because there's plenty of other violations at the plaza. We're focusing on one thing that one person did. But if you go and you look at all the U-Hauls, and you look at all the drunkenness, and you look at all the crap that goes on at that plaza, and the drug dealing that goes on in Goonies, what else do we have to do? You know, it shouldn't be that way. And it goes on over there. And I was just there the other night and saw stuff that shouldn't be going on in our town. But it happens right here at this plaza all the time. So, if we're gonna make a big deal about the plaza, we're just gonna have the whole thing rigmarole again. And I can agree with what you're saying, rules are rules. But you can't pick out one guy and start on him. You gotta go back to the whole thing, and we gotta stop the drinking out of the trucks in the afternoon, because that's not right. And all the people down at the the grocery store, who Phyllis has told us all about, who stand around and drink any time of the day or night, and the crap that goes on over there at Boonies, it's not right. And there's constantly trouble over there. So, you know, there's bigger fish to fry than we'll get to that.
all right.
Mr. Mayor, I understand my point was, we picked out a particular thing, an item, and we suggested the three, majority of the three that were here, suggesting it's not a bad idea, or it could be a good idea, or something. The point was, I don't know that you realized it was not just a casual little thing. And the property that's there, I don't have a problem getting in and out of there. I don't have a problem if it goes to 5 lanes each direction. If I have to go into the post office, I'll continue west and come back up B Road and go home. But the issue of how it was done and how we left it alone, the left it alone bothered me tremendously. I felt like we were actually breaking our responsibilities to this town as elected officials. That's what concerns me. I have no problem with things that Tom's saying. We should go fix all the problems. I'm not aware of all the problems firsthand, so the ones I'm aware of, I'm going to be filing complaints on. And if I happen to have the opportunity to have some more, I'll go ahead and add to the list. I don't have a problem with that. But I don't agree. I don't agree with the access being out the rear. I don't agree with somebody telling us, I'm going to do this, I don't care what you're going to do, because we haven't had the opportunity to evaluate it, et cetera. And I haven't had the opportunity to talk to the people who are there. And from a safety perspective, with all due respect, Mr. Mayor, I've come up with some safety thoughts myself, but I haven't gotten a lot of support. So it depends, I guess, in the eye of the beholder, what's safe to them and what's not, and what's safe to me. I understand your point of safety. And if I suggest otherwise, I apologize for
All right, Ron, you have something?
I don't know.
Okay. All right, moving on.
Your Honor, just a clarification. Councilmember Rocket said he's going to come in and make a complaint tomorrow. And he asked for the rest of you to opine if he makes a complaint. Are you backing, I want to make sure I'm doing the right thing here. Are you directing me to act, not condemn?
The reason that he's asking is you had previously taken steps to direct the, not to deal with that shopping center except for health and safety issues. That was an action that was taken as an outgrowth of some code matters about a year ago. And so I don't want to have any confusion in town management if they do receive a complaint for that shopping center, given the prior direction that was given at that time. Do you want to clarify that or give them so they're not dealing with the issue tomorrow or the next day?
Ron?
I want to make one comment. I understand where Jim's coming from, and he's right. But here's the problem we've got in Loxahatchee. When they built that plaza, they built under county rule and county, they were supposed to do certain things, okay? I don't need to name businesses and stuff, but we've got bigger businesses and stuff in Loxahatchee that were built under county rule. And when it comes down to the truth, they've expanded, they've done things that the county did not allow, and it's happening. And if we start cleaning house, I mean, we can start at one point, but we've got to continue. And right now, my main concern would be safety, okay? I have a problem with them drinking, and if they're doing drugs, I have a problem with that. That's where we get with PBSO, and we get with their, if possible, we get with the team that handles stuff like that, and they case it out just like they would a drug house, and they take their time and they solve those problems if they can do that for us. And I'm not going to put Lieutenant Combs on the spot tonight, but I believe Mark could get with him at any time and talk to him. Well, then, if you have any positive comments, it could help us with this situation. But that's where I stand. In other words, we've got some problems in Loxahatchee, and we start cleaning up one area. I missed the last council meeting. Okay, I do believe that we could use access from this plaza and from the post office on the Tangerine Drive. Like I said before, I believe the developers need to pay for it when they start coming through. Okay, we can put in a Shell Rock Road or whatever, but we need to come up with a better way to get out of that plaza than what's happening out there. I think we've had one fatality, I'm not sure, but I know Boonies right now, I believe, have a lawsuit against them about allowing somebody to leave, and this is just what I've heard, so it could be just a room that somebody left their facility and they were drunk, and the way that works, if a bartender allows you to leave your facility and he knows you're drunk, they can take Boonies and they can shut him down. So I think that's in the process. I'm not going to do any research to find out, and that's the rumor I heard. So there's things happening, and if there's drugs and stuff going on, that's where we need to communicate with Lieutenant Combs, and if there's something we can do about it, we need to do something about it. But like I said, we start this plaza over here, and we got to move on, and we got to upset a lot of people because the county, they got away with certain things with the county, and now. We've got the P and Z, we've got the ULDC's committees that are working on certain things right now. So I would like, I know where Jim's coming from, but I would like to at least make one more effort to try and work with him. Now, if I had to make a wager, I'll say he's top point here, but at least try one more time to try and get things straightened out. I've spoken with people in the plaza and type of stuff, and they've asked me why we're doing this and why we're doing that. My comment is, hey, you need to clean your act up, you know, and you need to start cleaning it up so that you don't have to worry about future code violations and things like that. So that's where I'm coming from. I do think we need access to the post office. Very dangerous out there. And the other thing, Mark, when we have these meetings with the FDOT, I noticed the only information I had that you gave me, they've only got Southern Boulevard like 30% of what they expect to do with it, especially coming out the plaza and D Road. Okay, I think they know what they want to do with D Road and Southern. Okay, we need to have some kind of idea. I've had people that want to support the town for a red light, but they say, well, we don't know whether they're going to block that off or not. We don't know whether they're going to make it 6 lanes to keep it open. So they need to be honest with us. I can't wait to make this workshop because I'm at work, so I can't talk to council members, but other ones that are making it, I would like for them to pin them down. They seem like they want to work with us. Pin them down and give us some positive answers. You know, they know what they're going to do, and I think personally the reason they've only got it 30% completed in the engineering plans is because they don't want too much of an uproar until the last minute.
Okay, Jim, you want to make a motion? In that way, I mean, how else do we know how we're gonna deal? One of my issues before, when we directed you to stand down, I think part of it was the reaction we got because of the suddenness of it. All of a sudden, they had to make all these changes. I kind of like what Ron's saying. We go to Mr. Yee and say, look, we're still expecting these things to be done. We have given you some leeway, but at the same time, you need to get your act together, or we're going to have to follow up on what we did before. We gave him basically a stay when we directed you before not to press those things. That wasn't, you know, to say they weren't ever going to come back. And we've given them time to fix a lot of that stuff. And I think, you know, we're coming very quickly to that time that we're going to need to deal with it. Jim, if you want to make a motion tonight, you know, to do that, but, you know, myself, I'm thinking more of giving him one more chance, but we expect to see it. And I would like to see something, I mean, on the opening to where we can justify it, because, again, that was a county issue. But that's my thoughts. So however you want to handle it, Jim.
All right, I'll word the motion this way, which I will not vote for. To make a motion that the council direct Mark Cutney not to act on code enforcement relative to the gate, Mr. Hughes' property, relative to the trucks parked next door, Mr. Hughes' property, until such time they will allow him to do that. Or, if we amend it to be in a week's time, I'm not going to be party to voting to ignore a law being broken. So I will vote no for that motion.
Okay. So a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Ryan seconds it. I've got one public comment. Ken Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. This is Ken Johnson, live on Collective Canal. I was glad to hear somebody say it was a safety issue. As I understand it, and I could be totally wrong, but the FDOT, with their plans to widen Southern Boulevard to 6 lanes, they will close that gap there in the median strip so that if you want to leave the post office or the plaza, you can no longer turn left, cross over and turn left, that you would have to turn right, go down, and then make a U-turn and come back. So all the more reason, in my way of thinking, is to have the gate open so that people can get out across the bridge to get to D, and hopefully they will, everybody here sign the petition that's going around about a light at Southern and D, so that people coming down D Road South can either go left or right using a traffic. So, that's just my food for thought. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
One of the comments, Mayor.
Yes.
If we put a light in at Southern, we've already provided us a relief of sorts to break the traffic at that point. You may have to do a U-turn, I prefer to go down D Road and flip around, but we are talking about spending money for the town that will benefit that plaza.
Okay.
I don't see how we're spending money on this, other than we're not gonna buy the traffic light, and we're not doing anything for road improvements, so I don't see how we're spending money.
We've already said we're gonna improve the lower part of D Road with Oakland to get the traffic light.
Is that why you did that, Ron?
Yeah, FDOT said that the guy that signs off on lights, he said he would never sign off on a red light for a dirt road coming into the main thoroughfare.
So you didn't get the light out here because of Mr. Yee?
No,
That's not what I said.
Well, it is what you said.
No, I
All
said
right.
the light would provide some relief to that plaza.
Undoubtedly. So with the one at Okeechobee to the businesses around the area, one isn't different than the other.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
That's a low blow.
It's a true fact.
It's a low blow, and it's not a true fact. This is a personal thing. You
No,
bring
what
it up.
I just said
Yes, you
was
are.
that it would benefit the businesses.
We're talking about
Do
the
you have-
light to benefit the community, center of town, Okeechobee.
This one is to
Benefits
benefit the community. Ron just said why he wanted to put it there. Jim, please
And
don't try to change
benefits the
us.
southern
All
part.
right.
I'm just saying, it
You
does
got your
relief.
reason. I know
We're
why.
trying to provide safety and issues with
All
relief.
right.
That's something that we've already had on the table that would help.
Gentlemen, so, all right, we have a motion and a second. Ken, you want to speak again?
Yes, I do. Sorry, but we've already got a traffic light on a dirt road at B that the state installed. We've got one on F that the state installed. So,
The difference is, though, you know what the difference is. Across the road, there's a paved road. So if you think the light went in because of Loch Setchie growth, you know, it went in because of Big Blue and Big Force. I mean, I would love to think they'd get it right.
What I'm saying, Mr. Mayor, is the fact that the state put in both of those lights on dirt roads.
No, I understand that.
So the individual that says he would never sign off on a traffic light on a dirt road, say, what?
Okay,
It's not unusual for things to be disingenuous from the DOT.
all right, let's,
Vice Mayor is correct about that. We had Harvey's called in, it's,
yeah,
And
I know. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Okay, identify, we've got Ryan. Yeah, let's do a roll call vote.
Yes, sir. Councilman Jim Rocket,
No,
Councilman Ryan Mann,
Yes.
Councilman Tom Wilson,
Yes.
Councilman Ron Jeremy,
yes,
Council, Mayor Dave Brown.
Yes. All right, so it passes 4-1. An interesting, the one that made the motion. Okay,
so we give them a week,
I
right?
understand. Yeah, that's what the motion said. All right, moving to 11A. Yeah, let's take a quick break.
So it's not part of the like that flash. It is, like I said, it's. I knew the sign. I didn't know about the drug, but
Like, like event cost.
yeah. Yeah.
Balance, we'll make sure you're balanced. We have a balanced budget in this town. Extra money, cost around.
Yeah. Makes it expand and.
And my, I just don't,
I guess it's a hassle, so it's all swollen, and I guess it's probably not a fine not to, that's what I feel. What is it? It's word.
It may never happen.
I think you called me Deaver. I think I'm Deaver. I hope I was okay when I was on the finance thing.
I mean, we may have a process.
I think it's 2 rows up.
We've never asked.
Was anybody in here for me? That was I saw your airbag in your face. No,
I got
And there's a mistake, and they're like, we're charged about
All right, let's try to wrap it up.
somebody.
Get out of here
Right, for how many acres? Even if it's 10, 20, 40 acres, I just need rates on the picture, okay? What the season is. I need to put the and then I'll make sure it's my personal, in the future.
Good, yeah.
It's fine. They're excellent. Just send me, it's Matt, my name. I have, right, yep. Just stick to real estate, that's it. Sorry, I hope you feel better.
Everybody grab Ryan out there. All right, moving to 11A.
We don't know why, we really don't know why. It's not that I don't know, but it's different.
11A.
Mayor, members of the council, this is a follow-up of this. Postponed the last meeting, so we can have all 5 council members present. I've wrote a report that was given on different types of vehicles and their ability to be used on the public roadways within the town. And so this, here for discussion of possible direction on whether these golf carts and swamp buggies, which requires an ordinance to allow them on public roads. I assume you won't want to, but you can take action to prohibit, I think, low-speed vehicles and mini trucks, that you would have to take action.
All right.
Over to you.
Discussion. Open up for discussion. Ron?
I missed the last council meeting, but I've read through all this, and unless I'm wrong, the way I interpret it from legal is we need to leave this alone and keep it like it is. Now, as far as swamp buggies and stuff, I believe when the emergencies arise, it won't be no different than the acreage or anywhere else. We'll use what we need to use to help CERT and the fire department, whatever. But for us to start dedicating roads for certain types of vehicles, whether it's a golf cart, and then they said the minimum age was 14 years old. 14-year-old does not have a driver's license. if you're gonna operate a vehicle in the town of Loxahatchee, I expect you to carry anything from a restricted license up to a driver's license. So when PBSO stops you, you've got identification of who you are, where you live, and whether that golf cart basically comes from your residence. Because we have a habit of people, they like to steal golf carts. I believe Mr. Ryan can verify that from a past experience. We have a habit in Loxahatchee, and I'm not saying it's people that live in the groves, okay, but people like to ride around on four-wheelers and golf carts and scope out residents, and then they like to steal if nobody's around. And they're quiet, they're sneaky, and I just don't like the idea. And when we designate one road, that's back to the residents that live on that road. This council shouldn't be designating a road for people to ride golf carts on, and without the residents agreeing to that, because the residents that live on that road are the ones that's affected by whatever the outcome is. So that's where I stand on that. It sounds like the work vehicles and stuff like that are covered. And then if we did allow some of these vehicles to be on the road, they've got to have mirrors and turn signals and lights. And I mean, if you ride around and look at the golf carts and stuff, they don't have that stuff. So I personally think we're opening a can of worms. I know in the acreage, they frown on stuff like that. And PBSO, when I was working out there, they did a pretty good job of trying to prevent from happening, because that was what Indian Trail wanted them to do. So I say we leave it alone and we concentrate on more important things at this time.
Okay, anybody else?
Yeah, I would say that we should allow the golf carts on the town roads, but I'm not gonna fight for it. I don't have a golf cart. I was trying to help it out for people that did and try to make things easier for residents. But if people want them not to go, then I guess that's what they want. I'm not taking that on Ron's statement, but people don't want them there. I would hope that with PBSO, make sure that people who do understand they're breaking the law and treat them as such, because we cannot have, as Jim here so correctly pointed out, we can't have unequal enforcement. And I think that's what we have. So in order to make there not be unequal enforcement, I said that we should allow. And I do believe we should allow. On the roads where the speed limit is 30 miles an hour. However, if people don't disagree, I certainly don't want to get into a fight with anybody on it. As I said, I don't have a golf cart. I didn't actually care less. I was trying to implement something that was discussed and said by the Roads and Trails Committee. But once again, if the council in their wisdom wants to do elsewise, then feel free. I really have nothing more to say.
Okay, anybody else? Let me go around and I'll come back to you. Anybody else? Thoughts, one way or the other?
I'm more along the lines of Tom. I know a lot of folks do use their golf cart, just to check their mail or go to the neighbor's house. But then, I also understand Ron's concern. There are folks who will take advantage of it or do take advantage of using golf carts or ATVs to look to steal. And that's something we have to consider. But I don't want to penalize the property owner who wants to use their golf cart to check their mail or take the garbage out. So I think it's good for discussion to talk about it a little more.
Okay, anything, Jim?
I never leave my property. I take my garbage out and I check my mail. I use my golf cart. I don't need to go on town roads or district roads. And frankly, I've seen too many times where we have recreational golf carting on our roads and it's dangerous. So from a safety perspective, it's crazy. And we don't have if we want to put signs out, we don't have an estimate of what it's going to cost us. Let's say we do all town roads, how much it's going to cost us in signs and things of that nature. I just don't see it's an issue. I think the point is nobody's going to arrest me for doing it. And I don't have a problem using it on my property, like I said, to do the things that Ryan said we need to do. Ryan has probably go a little further for it now. But I would suggest nobody's going to come up to this road and stop him using his golf cart, especially if they stopped his mom, they'd never stop him again.
Okay, Ron?
And that's back to the one comment Tom made about PBS. So they're instructed by Indian Trail that what's not allowed, they are to ticket. At least they were when I worked out there. Now that may have changed. We don't instruct PBSO, and we don't have our own we've got people dedicated to this area, but it's not like Indian Trail or Wellington. I believe they have their own officers. Is that true, Lieutenant Collins, or were they designated to work for that area? Okay, all right. But I think Lieutenant Collins, who makes all our meetings, I think he understands that we don't want his deputies to spend valuable time running around trying to cite people on golf carts. Now, I know some incidents where some kids have, they had one death fatality on a golf cart because it was hit by a car crossing, I believe it was some old frat around Sycamore, but I'm not sure about the location, but I know that somebody died. The other thing is, I see how the kids, now I'm not talking about adults, and I believe that if a kid with their mother or father was in a golf cart, I just find it hard to believe that PBSO is going to waste their time citing them. They may question them and make sure they've got the father's got a license and they're not up to no good, but I don't think we have to worry about in Loxahatchee citing kids on golf carts. But I think we'll open a can of worms and liability when we start saying certain roads can be used or all the roads in Loxahatchee. It's a sue-itis world, I call it. In other words, everybody wants to sue. And when somebody's child gets hurt, take my word for it, parents don't like the idea of somebody getting away with hurting their children. So somebody gets sued, and most of the time it's the town.
Okay, and I was one of them that was interested in looking into this. If I would have done it, I would have made sure you had been a licensed driver to drive the golf cart. We already allow horses on the road, we allow tractors on the road, we allow the utility vehicles from the nurseries on the road. The ATVs are already illegal. The dirt bikes that are not licensed are already illegal. We already have a problem with that anyway. But, you know, so my thought was kind of like, what would it hurt to designate the roads with licensed, you know, drivers to use their golf cart, to go to the neighbor's house. I know during the hurricane, I met my neighbors because they drove their golf cart down the half mile of our house, you know, in the eye of the storm, and I met my neighbors. And they were just out kind of looking at stuff. So I don't have a golf cart, so I don't have a horse in the fight, or the dog in the fight either. But anyway, Tom?
All right, so I'll make a motion to allow the golf carts on the town roads,
Okay.
okay? Which would be the town roads. And I would also add to that that you need to be a licensed driver. That's 16, at least 15 years.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Also,
Okay, second by Ryan.
is now when you say town roads, is it all the towns?
Everything in gas tax, except for, I had said originally 30 mile an hour.
Yeah. You know, we fit because the speed limit's low enough. You know, we already have some signage for horses. We probably need a little more signage for the horses because they're allowed on there. Maybe a sign that would include everything, including farm vehicles and things like that, because, you know, people need to watch out or at least be aware of that. But anyway.
Yeah, that would be a good sign.
All right, we have a motion and a second. I've got Ken Johnson and Ann Parker.
Mr. Mayor and council members, Ken Johnson, Collecting Canal. I'm inclined to think that it's a safety issue on multiple facets. One, no helmets, no seat belts, no lights, et cetera, Who's going to make sure that these things are lit up correctly? Number two, how are we going to expect a golf cart that's going 20 miles an hour to cross Okeechobee Boulevard, especially if they widen it to 4 lanes, and survive? I would think they can.
But that's not part of the motion, just town roads. They wouldn't be able to cross the county road.
All right, but look, I'm going to talk about that in a second, too. You know, we still need a traffic light besides this one at D and Okeechobee to break the flow. But that's a safety, another safety issue. Here comes the big one. Already, without any ordinance being passed or anything, there's confusion with the citizens and residents of Waxahachie Groves as to what's allowed on the road and what's not allowed on the road. I see that just about every day. Because in their minds, if you allow a golf cart, well, this thing that I own has got 4 wheels and runs 55 miles an hour, well, that can be used. And I've seen that right at the corner of B Road and Collecting Canal. Not 2 weeks ago, we pulled out, bingo, there were 4 vehicles right in front of their house, coming down Collecting Canal. All 4 of them are illegal in this town by state law. Well, they're out there, you know. Well, the confusion would be that people will interpret, well, if you let a golf cart in, well, mine must be illegal too. Buy your own book. That, I don't know who published this book, but it's good information. It says, golf carts may only be operated on the public roads between sunrise and sunset. Well, I've seen them out there at nighttime. I saw one not 3 nights ago coming up D Road with a flashlight. He had a golf cart using a flashlight. Hey, you know. Another one. Golf carts operating at any time on public roads must be equipped with efficient brakes, reliable steering apparatus, safe tires, a rear view mirror, and red reflectors warning devices on both front and rear end. Well, who's going to check to make sure that all of those things are legal? I'm assuming
The same guy who stopped him when you saw him the other day.
Okay, all righty, we'll get to that in a second too. Another statute under utility vehicles. Florida statutes, this is the state of Florida, permits municipalities to operate utility vehicles on roads within the municipality solely by municipal employees or for a municipal purpose.
And.
Oh, okay, and I missed the word. And, right, but what I'm saying is that they're saying that it's a no-go, not unless it's being run by.
No, it's 2 separate things.
That's not part of it, Ken.
Okay.
That's a utility vehicle, not a golf cart. There's specific definitions if you look through there.
Yeah.
OHVs is another thing that's prohibited, and ATVs are prohibited. They're all prohibited now. So my point is, if you don't want
As
them
well
on
as
the
golf
roads,
carts, yeah.
they're already illegal.
I
So
know.
if we make the golf carts, we allow the golf carts to continue to be illegal, you'll probably see a similar level of enforcement as you do on those ATVs.
Okay, let's,
I'm only saying that the people who are using the golf carts, and many people do want to use them, that those people ought to be allowed to. And it is at their risk.
okay. Now let's continue, if I may. Town needs to post appropriate signage on such roads. Well, how much is that going to cost us? We, the taxpayers. I don't know. Now, the last thing is, and I hope I'm getting this correct, and Lieutenant Combs, I'm sure, will correct me if I'm saying something incorrect. PBS will not chase one of these vehicles if they decide to run. That because of, it's a liability issue.
So who's going to catch them when we make it illegal, Ken?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I understand,
It's
but
so
none of it makes your point.
confusing. It's so confusing as to what will be allowed, what will not be allowed, the signage, and PBSO You're not chasing them anyway if they decide to run.
Well, they can't chase them now if you see them with the flashlights, so what are you saying?
So, well, that's what I'm saying. The whole thing is very confusing, and it's a safety issue. Thank you.
Okay, Ann?
Pam Parker, like DMV Road. I have some of the same concerns as he does. But I still feel that if someone wants to ride it on the road, you know, they should be able to. But until we get a little bit more established and we get into the building of other things, I think, and because you don't, like he said, you don't know how much the signage is going to be if you have to post that. And I think that we should wait a little bit before you go ahead and approve it.
Okay, thank you, Ann. John Ryan?
John Ryan, 3508A Road. I support Councilman Gerald's concern over safety issues, and some of these statutes call for not only headlights on golf carts, but brake lights, turn signals, and windshield. I mean, this gets ridiculous, and I think if the town legitimizes it, it's opening itself up to liability. I think if you leave it alone, people know that they really shouldn't do it. If there is an emergency or a particular need, maybe that's different. But I think once we start getting into the swamp of posting adequate signs and providing adequate inspection and enforcement, and I don't think your motion was clear that if it's adopted, it needs to comply with all the state statutes that deal with golf carts and the equipment and the driver's license and other things. Now, if you want to amend your motion so that it doesn't get erroneously passed, I think that would be the correct thing to do. But I really wouldn't support that kind of a motion. I think it opens the town up to a lot of problems.
Okay. All right. Any other comments by council members? Yeah, Ryan?
I just want to make a comparison, cars, they require turning lights, they require brakes, and the town's not required to enforce and check the cars in working order. It's almost the same with a golf cart. If you want to drive the golf cart on the road, you better make sure it has proper lighting, reflectors, whatever we say it needs to have, it needs to have. That's not our responsibility. I think if this motion is passed, this is allowing folks to use the golf cart on the road, but they need to be responsible. Just like we allow questions to ride on the road. There is an inherent danger, but they need to take the proper precautions. I don't think we're liable for it, but we do allow them to use the road.
Okay. Ron?
There's no way that the majority of golf carts would comply with the state statutes, and if we don't make them comply, then we're going to be liable. The difference is, okay, if we open up Loxahatchee to golf carts, and we legalize them and we advertise that our roads are good for golf carts, hey, it's going to be worse than my road at 7 in the morning and 3 in the afternoon when the high school kids are shooting from the acreage going to Seminole Ridge High School. You talk about kids on golf carts. They can legally ride in Loxahatchee roads, and the only way the PBSO will not know where they're from is to check them for license and stuff like that. And that puts more pressure on PBSO, makes their job more complicated. And it is different than, a golf cart is different than a car. First of all, a car, there's a safety factor. If you got seat belts and you've got a shell around you to protect you, and drive a car, you have to have a driver's license. Now, I realize there's people out there that their licenses are suspended, and PBSO, it's their job to, if they stop them, to check that. But the safety factor in the car is nothing compared to what you have in a golf cart. They're very dangerous. And if you knew that every adult was going to be riding with their child, or they was going to be a licensed person, and it complied with state statute, that would release some of the liability to the town. But it's not going to work that way. And that's it. That's why I say leave it alone. if you want to take the liability on as a town, okay, this is one of those subjects where we as 5 members don't make a decision about that. We do a workshop, and that way we can throw the blame on the citizens of Loxahatchee Grove because 51% of the residents out here wanted us to legalize golf carts, and then we set the restrictions and stuff. But we don't just make it as simple as voting on it tonight. There's too much involved.
Anybody else? Comments? I personally, I think we've kind of blown this thing out of proportion. A golf cart is a golf cart is a golf cart. We're not talking about driving at night. We're talking about limiting, taking the 14-year-old age to a licensed driver. So you're not going to have 14-year-olds. I don't know what kid that's got a driver's license is going to ride a golf cart. They're not illegal in any of the other neighborhoods. They're not illegal to drive over to the high school because they can only drive in Loxahatchee Groves. We have a very unique community. You've got people that have pony carts and they ride them down our roads. When I first moved out here, people rode their horses down every road, and that was part of Loxahatchee Groves. We already have the nurseries that travel up and down the road in slow vehicles, and to me, it's kind of a traffic calming, if anything, because when you know you've got people using the road like that, you tend to watch out for them. You tend to slow down a little bit. You tend to see something like that. You know, so for adults to use it, we do. We've got a unique community. You know, anything that I think we can do to save money and make it more neighborly, because you know what? If a guy's driving up, your neighbor drives up on a golf cart, you can talk to him. But if he drives up in his truck with the windows all the way up, and now it's funny because we do something that's probably very illegal, and it's a terrible thing in Loxahatchee Groves, and my neighbors do it all the time. They see me out front, you know what they do? They stop in the middle of the road and talk. And we don't really care if somebody from the acreage that's in a hurry has to slow down and drive around. That's all right with us. I mean, if anything slows us down. So I think we're blowing it up out of proportion. I think we'd have to maybe post where you come into our town, and it might be a good thing to let people know, look, beware, these are what you're going to share the road with. And my thought, I mean, you know, I don't think it's a big problem with golf carts, but again, I don't have a golf cart. Jim?
One thing I guess been mentioned a couple times is, I guess in notifying people of this, rather than just a word of mouth, you've got to make them understand. They have to change what the golf course, how it's rigged. And if they don't, then what happens? I guess it's a PBSO issue. But there's a lot of good points made about we don't have the safety issue with a car and the licensing. But that's certainly, the majority of this council wants to do that. I think maybe it's a good idea to see what the town, I'm not sure if blaming the town people for approving it, but it's an interesting option to get more input. I really think it's just not a problem. I don't even find the need to get out on the roads with a golf cart. I take a car. I mean, it's far enough for me to go from one end of my property to the other. If I gotta go further, I'm gonna take a car. So, and I just know that you're not gonna get people to change their golf carts. You're not gonna have licensed drivers. And so we've created a far more of a nuisance for people, because now they're gonna get stopped and say, well, I thought I could ride on the road. So I just kind of say, I think it's not a problem. Whatever we decide.
All right, we've got a motion and a second.
Mr. Mayor, just so I can clarify, for the road is, it has to be done by ordinance, so I would be interpreting the motion, if it were adopted, to directly prepare an ordinance and bring it back to you. Okay. I assume it does not include swamp levies, because the motion is only for golf carts. I assume that the only restriction you want to add is different than the state law, is that you want to increase the minimum age from 14 to 16.
Driver's license.
You want it, so you have to have a valid driver's license, okay, so that's gonna be, so that will have to be reflected in the sign, golf carts permitted, valid driver's license required, will have to be on that, any additional requirements you put on there, it's not in the state statute, you have to reflect on the signage. Don't know how many signs you would need, I don't know how much those signs would be, but if you gave direction to an ordinance to allow that, it's something that you have to do. But I'm taking the direction to bring back an ordinance to you, to permit that One last thing, you know, in my memo, I recommended that you have somebody review the safety component. If you're all comfortable with your knowledge that the golf carts can be safely operated on town roads, then that's the direction you would give me to include that into the ordinance. If you wanted to give direction to have certain items reviewed, this would be the time to do that as well. But again, I just want to, more importantly, make clear that the motion passes. It still needs to come back for an ordinance.
Okay. And then maybe we can get some input from the public in that.
Probably get some input from estimate of cost aside.
Yeah. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Opposed?
Okay, passes 3-2. And we'll go to the next step.
So, I don't know if I can have the ordinance ready for the 17th, but definitely by the
You're this long, we just don't hurry.
I just don't want to overpromise what
No.
other things we're going to do for budget as well.
Yeah. All right, moving to new business, 12A. Ron?
Discussion on 161st Terrace North, and we just started the contract with the Water Control District on grading town roads. They've got a pretty good game plan. They've got 4 quadrants, and each week they do a quadrant. I don't have a problem with stuff like that. My problem, I think, is beneficial to the residents for the simple fact whether you need your road graded or not, you're going to get it graded every 2 weeks. Now, back when the district did it, and while we were doing it under the old contract or whatever, the resident had to call in for a request, and then it was checked out to verify, and then within 3 days, we graded the road. Okay, according to the new plan, which is better for the residents, you're going to get it graded whether it needs it or not. Now, my problem for me and my residents is 161st is over 2 miles long. It's the longest town road, and it's the longest district road as far as North A Road and North B Road and stuff like that. We have a problem, and apparently nobody knows about our problem. I spoke with Mark today. He actually, they were supposed to grade 161st either today or tomorrow according to the schedule. And that would have been the second grading. And with the second grading, they were going to determine whether we needed fill on our road or not, okay? Mark rode over today. Me and him was going to take a ride because they graded it Friday afternoon. That was the second grading. And today, we had the washboard effect. And he came when we had a major storm, which I was thankful for because I like all the circumstances to be the worst they could possibly be. But he left before the end results, before the water was standing in the road and the other problems arise. So town management says they don't have a problem with grading it every week. Now Mike Walker, he's not here tonight, and I wouldn't ask him to come, but Mike Walker is the one that always went out and inspected the roads for the Water Control District as far as how much fill was needed. I requested a lot of fill in Loxahatchee, not just on 161st, but 11th Terrace. I rode, me and Supervisor John Ryan and our wives rode come on, Casey Road, okay? Now supposedly, according to this list, Casey Road, I think, was graded last week. All right, if anybody wants to take time out to ride Casey Road tomorrow, you can call me up and tell me that it does not need fill and needs to be graded, especially if it got the same rain that we got in the northwest corner tonight. So what I'm trying to determine tonight with the town council is a good idea with the quadrants, very good for the residents, but if a town road needs to be graded, I want them to designate that 161st will be graded at least once a week. I could have had the residents in here tonight, but I don't think it was necessary. Mike Walker recommends, and he's been working for the district now for over 16 years, and he's their supervisor. He agrees that 161st, because of the cut-through traffic, 7 in the morning, 3 in the afternoon, we have the high school kids cutting through. They do anything from spinning donuts to passing each other 50 miles an hour to pickup trucks. but they abuse the heck out of our road. Besides the high school kids, we've got people that like to cut through on the north end of Loxahatchee and possibly the Acres too, okay? They like to cut through our street to go shopping or go to the high school or go out to the Acres. And now they've got a gas station, Publix and all that stuff. It's quicker for them, and that's why they abuse our road. So I'm asking the council tonight to consider 161st to be graded every week. If they don't, I'm sure they'll have a call from the residents every week. The example I told Mark today was they graded it Friday afternoon. Here it is Tuesday. The road is already the washboard effect. Now after the rain, he says he might come out and ride it tomorrow. I hope he does. You'll see where the fill that we requested. I requested a certain amount of fill on this road back June 30th. June 30th, okay? Now the reason the fill hasn't been put on the road is because we were waiting on the contract and different things. Okay, the need hasn't changed. Now, with the new game plan of grading the road 2 times before our town consultant can go out there and evaluate that it needs fill, okay, I disagree with that. When you got a hole in one spot and you grade the road, you take dirt from one location and you move it to that hole. The road looks real nice, but what you're doing, if you ride around Loxahatchee, you'll find people when they come out their driveways, it's not, their driveway is no longer level with the road. Some people drop, and before we paved D Road, we had a guy in a Mustang that always complained about coming out on D Road and bottoming it out with his Mustang because the road was graded lower than his driveway. So it bothers me that I requested 6 loads of fill to be put on 161st Terrace, okay? I actually put the addresses down where the fill needed to be, and my address wasn't one of the addresses, okay? It was clarified through Mike Walker. That was back in June. Okay, now, according to the new game plan, they want to go out and verify that it still needs those 6 loads. Okay, that's an insult to me, okay? And the other thing is, Mike Walker went out and we had a procedure where resident called in a request for fill, Mike Walker would go out and verify. He does not show favoritism to different people all over Loxahatchee. Okay, if it needs, I requested 6 loads of fill, he went out and he verified that it needed 8 loads of fill. So anytime I've asked for fill on more roads than mine most of the time, I've always done the minimum, hoping that when Mike went out that he would see that it needed a little bit more, and that's most time that's what's happened. So 2 things tonight. I want the fill that we requested back in June 20th, 2013, that was approved by Mike Walker. I want that fill put in these locations that was verified. And I would hope the council would agree with me that 161st Terrace needs to be graded at least once every week. And the other thing, 3rd thing, I'm sorry, but I spoke with Steve Yoey today. When they used to grade A Road, or any district road they grade, they use the water truck. When we paved North A Road, okay, it's less than 2 miles from Okeechobee to the north end of A Road. Our road is over 2 miles long. We were hoping that the water control district would take that water truck that they used to water A Road and they would start watering our road, because when they water it, it does make the grading last longer. So those are the things I'm looking for tonight. And if you got any questions, please ask me.
Okay.
I do have a question, and that is there nothing we can do about stopping the people from cutting through? As to try to...
Will they cut through the field there?
They cut through in 2 places. They used to cut through what they call Ray Size cut through. It was on the far north end of 161st. Well, now Pat Hastings, they used to have the mulching place that moved over to A Road, which is just north of me. Well, that makes it a lot shorter for them. So now they just cut from 161st to 162nd. Unless they want to mud or they want to party up on the north end, then they use Ray Size cut through. But no, we've talked to PVSO, and basically they can't stop them from cutting through. And when you try and keep people from crossing other people's private vacant property, you've got to have signs posted, you've got to work with PBSO, you've got to, these PBSO will sell you the signs that authorizes them, if they catch somebody on this vacant lot, that if they can't prove that they own that lot, then they can arrest them. They have a problem now, is nobody wants to put up these signs, so they can't arrest somebody for trespassing on your property. So that's where we stand as far as trying to stop it.
Is there anything we could do as a town? Put up an fence, where that problem will take along what we claim to be a town road area, and keep people from cutting the town's fence, and when people want to develop their property, we can open the door. And I'm not saying anything about this aspect of it, I'm okay with that. I'm talking about how can we stop it, because it's silly for us to keep throwing money after that if the roads are getting tore up. And especially if they're getting tore up by people who are not from here, or, you know, for whatever reason, it causes damage to it. You know, if it's up, we could put it on our edge. Offense.
Here's what's happening in the past, you can't stop the people, okay? The fence that was put up on this property, is they run over it, no. Okay, back in the old days, I tried to help Miss Ray's side out, 90 years old lady, and people trespassing on her property. I put boulders, I dug trenches with backhoes. Okay, where the problem lies is you got people that run construction equipment on our road too. If they want to leave Loxahatchee and go the acres, they cut through. So if I put a boulder in the path, and I put up a gate with 10 bags of saccharine on each metal post, well, it lasted for a couple of years, and then finally the front end loader just pulled it out of the ground, moved it out of the way. So no, we can't stop them. And the research that's been done on dirt roads is for every one vehicle that travels your road, within 1 year, it removes 1 ton of fill, of dirt, through dust, through carrying it when the road is wet. We talked about that before with the water control district. That's one reason why we said it was easier to maintain an ozone road than a dirt road. So, like I said, if you want to see the traffic at 7 in the morning, if you want to see it between 3:30 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon, then come see it. But that's why we need our road graded once a week. That's why we need 8 loads of fill put on it. So that we have one situation coming from A Road onto 161st. Mark knows about it. He's seen a little bit of it today, but the rains wasn't hard enough. Back when we had our rainstorms, okay, I had to park my Ford Escape up in front of Loxahatchee at my cousin's house because I could not make it through the entrance on 161st. Water drains from the residence property there. It drains across 161st. It's got a drainage ditch to drain in, but it gets so deep that a car cannot make it through there. So I was lucky I had a pickup truck. Now Mike Walker, he's known over a year. Now Steve is new to the water control district, and I explained to Mark, he knows how to fix the solution. You just take an 8-inch pipe, you put it across the entrance, you put 2 loads of fill on top of it. The residents have drainage, water won't sit on top of the road, and we can keep a road so that 56 other residents, in other words, that's just 56 other acres, 5-acre lots, can come and go out our street. So that's where any more questions?
Jim?
A couple things. I guess I usually rely on those that live on the road condition. We call in if it needs to be done once a week. Why don't we just, I understand what you say, we'll call it in once a week. But the bigger thing that I have a question about is I've got a schedule from me, I guess now, that says we're going to do all our roads every month. And that was part of a contract that we, as a council, said, no, we're not going to put every road being graded every month, in part because of the cost. Now, I guess I'm at a loss here. This is the only information I've received that says we're going to have a schedule for road grading, even considered. But it never came to council. Never got any direction from council members. And it's contrary to what the council already agreed to. So, from a cost perspective, I thought we felt like it was too expensive. And we have relied on people need to say, hey, I want to do it. If you want to do it, call it in and we'll process it. Now, do we have a cost assessment now on what this is, because we have a rate, we have a miles per road, we ought to be able to say what this is gonna now cost us. And we haven't had a chance, we're not really voting on it, we're not asked to vote on it. This is just gonna be done. But we certainly ought to know what it's gonna cost us. I vote against it if I was asked to vote, because we originally voted against it for the same reason. It was too costly, and you need your road paved or graded and call. If you want your road graded, run twice a week, that's fine. If you think that's what needs to be done, call. And I'm sure we get the same kind of assessment we get from the Water Control District through Mike in the past. If he comes down the road and says, no, it doesn't need to be graded, it doesn't get graded. Is what's been done in the past, from my recollection. But I'm completely, I'm caught off guard that we are saying that we are now changing what we voted specifically not to include in the contract with the Water Control District, to do scheduled grading every week. And I don't know, Ron, you remember that, but we took it out of the contract.
Right.
We took it out of the contract and said, we're not going to do that. We're not going to grade it in the contract that we have to Waxahachie Road. So, this is a bigger issue to me. You know, we're doing something that contrary to the council's direction, and we're doing it without even the council having opportunity to discuss it before we decide to do it. But from your perspective, I'd say, if it's said on here, if you're gonna do it once a month, call them every week. Call them twice a week. And then let them say, no, they can't. But I'm not in favor of having a set schedule of grading. And I want to know the cost before we enter into this new arrangement. I'd like to understand why the council was not consulted on this when we specifically eliminated this from the contract with the Water Control District.
Any question, Mark? Here, Mark, can you answer that?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of questions there, so let me try to address them all. First of all, the vice mayor is correct. We did meet today. We had a very good discussion. I did go out to 161st for private conditions immediately. Unfortunately, it was raining at the time, so we couldn't meet. And I did tell him that if he sought grading on 161st on a weekly basis, that he should go get the approval from town council. So let me try to address what we did, and I think that will address some of Councilman Rocket's concerns. We were receiving a lot of requests for road grading. You know, we had a pretty wet season. We had a lot of roads that were, needing grading. We came up with a planned program, coordinated approach, based on one notice to proceed. Not that it would be a continuation. And this was done through Mr. Shiola, myself, and Mr. Yoder. And Mike Walker was also consulted, so we all agreed on this. I'm just going to read you portions of the notice to proceed, which was issued on July 31st. What we said is pursuant to the attached aerial graphic, which is basically the 4 quadrants that we developed, the grading of all town roads, starting in quadrant 1 and proceeding through the remaining quadrants until all town roads have been graded. First grade, first pass through the town. In concert with task number 1 above, Waxahachie Grove's Water Control District staff is to make assessments and recommendations related to road rock that is needed upon completion of that first pass of grading. Because once again, in addition to the request for road grades, everybody and their brother was calling us asking for road rock. So we're trying to, again, establish a baseline of what is necessary. The third item in this scope of services, upon review and consent by the town, Waxahachie Grove's Water Control District staff will be authorized to apply road rock for approval under a separate notice to proceed. And our agreement, not indicated in this, was Mike Walker, after we graded the roads, would make the assessment. Then our guy would go out, take a look, just to make sure that the town is weighing in on it if it is needed, not to countermand the recommendations, but just to, again, just to see it. Finally, we said provide a brief summary report after the completion of each quadrant with a list of roads needing road rock and the estimated amount per road. Well, that part they didn't get totally correct, but they did send us a report as of Friday, August 23rd, from Lynette Ballard to Denise Rodriguez, indicating that per the town's notice to proceed on July 31, 2013, the following is the district report regarding town roads that were graded. And they talked about Zone 3 was graded August 2nd through the 6th. Zone 1 through 7th through the 12th. Zone 2, August 13th through the 15th. Zone 4 was graded August 14th through the 19th. With regard to rock material, per Mike Walker, field superintendent, there are no town roads that require rock material at this time. Now, that's what I'm acting upon, council. I'm trying to contain costs, trying to do things appropriately. It's not, the notice to proceed is not keep going and keep doing it once a month, because once we establish the baseline, then we will determine what roads needed to be done.
Would you think it would be appropriate to let the council know that this is what you wanted to do for 1 month, rather than have me see this way, and it doesn't say anything about it's only for 1 month, and say, keep us informed that, hey, by the way, you know you told me not to do this every month in our contract with Water Control District, once a month for every road? We're gonna do this as a starting point, establish a baseline, and then we're only gonna do it once, and we're gonna revert back to calls.
I suppose I could have told you in the management update, but if you want to micromanage the process. then
This is
that's-
not micromanaging,
Yes,
Mark.
sir, it is.
This is having you communicate with this council and tell us what is going on specifically when the council makes a direction otherwise. That's the main reason. If we had said, doesn't matter when you grade, go ahead and just figure it out, but we went in the contract and said, take it out. And there's no, and you say, I want to do things appropriately, that's not to be appropriate. Second, you want to do things cost-wise, that's not costly. You just increased the cost as far as I'm concerned. You say, well, I'm going to do it all the time, at least for this month. So the new news on just gathered, without being presented appropriately to here, is this is a test for 1 month. Is that correct? The second thing is, we're not going to do this in September, the same thing. Is that correct?
This was not a test. This was to address a number of residents who needed their roads graded. If you don't want me to grade their roads, then I won't grade
The
them.
question was, is this going to be done every month?
No.
Okay, so the answer to the first question, this is just scheduled for August, is what you're following. You don't have a schedule for September, and you don't intend to come up with the same 4 zones.
We will use the zones as necessary, but I did not give them another notice to proceed.
So your intent would be to continue with this concept each month with zone 1, 2, 3.
No, I did not say that, sir.
I'm just trying to get, because I want to know before you do it, not after.
Well, I think one of the issues was that we were collecting gas tax on the roads, that there was no record that we had ever maintained. Therefore, I think one of the reasons that Mark went out and did it this way was so we could say and had a record that we had done maintenance on every road, every town road in Los Angeles
Yeah.
roads, because some of the roads you'll never get a call on. And that was my point. I agree with you. I mean, some of these roads have been graded maybe once every 3 years. So if we do it once a year, they're going to be tickled to death. But anyway, I think it's important. Could he have communicated a little better to us? Maybe. But I think it's important that we do, this is a good place to start, and I agree with you. I mean, we're not going to continue this schedule, but, then we'll go per calls and things like that. Ron?
Yeah, I need to clarify something. The letter Mark read, first of all, he needs to read the date too. Okay, according to this zone right here, my road was supposed to be graded today or tomorrow. In other words, it was supposed to be graded for the second grading this week, and then Mike would have told them it either needed fill or didn't need fill. So when Lynette addressed him with that letter, Mike was off for dinner, okay? This road was graded Friday. Mike hasn't even had a chance to tell town management that we still need to put 8 loads of fill on 161st Terrace. Now, he'll be back tomorrow, okay? And I believe that he will verify that he didn't sign that with the fun of it, okay? That it still needs to fill, and he would like for the town to put it on there. And the second grading has been done. I don't have a problem with the zones doing a 2-time grade to establish what the road really looks like. But you can't push dirt. You can push dirt from one point to another and make the road look nice as soon as you grade it. But the truth, when you fill the hole up, the hole comes back, and where you pulled it from is going to be in worse shape if you left it alone. And Casey Road is a fine example. Anybody want to ride it tomorrow, ride it and see what kind of shape it's in. And yet it has already been graded. It hasn't been graded for the second time, so they can't go over there and say it needs fill because they haven't graded it for the second time. And see, that stuff is ridiculous. You go over there, you look at the road. I invite every council member, at least when you go to work tomorrow, you go to the store, take time out to ride on Casey Road, from F Road to Folsom, and call me up at any time, and tell me that, Ron, you were wrong. That road's in beautiful shape. It don't need fill and it don't need grade. So And tomorrow, when Mike Walker comes back to work, Steve said he was off today, he'll be back tomorrow. Okay, the three of us will sit down and he'll clarify to Steve that he still feels like his request needs to be filled. And like I said, tomorrow, now since the rain is coming, and that wasn't a really hard rain, that was, you can ride it in the morning with Frank, and I'm gonna tell you right now, Frank is no more qualified than I am as far as telling you if you need a load of fill on your road. And I resent that you don't trust my judgment. Every request I've ever made with this town, and I've made more requests than 20 of the people in Loxahatchee have, and most of them was not for my road, it was for other people's roads. And I didn't lie about the fill rock, but Mark is right about one thing. We had residents call in wanting 8 loads of fill on their road, and it probably don't even need 1 load of fill. But we had a process where Mike Walker would go and say either they're telling the truth or they're not. Now Frank would go out and verify the same thing. So you're going to have people wanting more than what they need. But one thing, I do not request more. I always request less. And then it was always verified by an experienced water control man before it was approved. And my complaint is this request was done in June 20th, 2013. I'm tired of waiting on that field.
Okay, let's go ahead and move forward. You want to make a motion, Ron?
I make a motion that, and I agree with you guys, okay, we run through the 2 gradings to establish the road, say that we graded them, but I want the town management, I make a motion that if a resident calls in for a courtesy grade or a grade, that request be done. And I think we have a 3-day time limit. I can waiver the fact that 161st Terrace needs to be graded once a week. So my first motion, I'll make a motion that 161st Terrace gets graded minimum of once a week.
All right, there's a second to that motion.
I'll say.
Okay, second by Ryan. Any other discussion on this? I've got nothing by the public here. Any other discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign.
And one last thing, comments.
All right.
Okay, this is in case,
All right. Okay, hang on, let's get, it's 5-0. It passes. The only problem I have with this is now, in the case, school's out, it's dry, you don't need it, we're still grading it every week, you know, but,
So the direction for me, it's gonna happen once a week.
yeah. Okay, Ron, next item.
That's it, sir. That, yeah, no, you got another?
no, everybody should know that the Water Control District put a lot of time and effort. Back when we wanted them to give us some kind of idea, if they got the contract, of what it would cost the town to grade their roads. They figured on the roads that they had graded by the people that called it in and requested it. They gave us a sheet telling us that each road should be graded so many times. Now, some of these was kind of, I believe, short, because for a whole year, they didn't fit it, but they gave us some kind of idea, that gave us an idea of what it would cost the town on a yearly basis to keep these roads graded. Now, if we did the minimum of what they put so much time and effort in, okay, then basically if somebody needed it graded, and the condition was that if it needed graded more than the 4 times that they allowed, or the 8 times, or the 20 times, that they would call in the request and they would get it graded, but the management wanted something to go by. And the Water Control District put a lot of time in this.
What does it say the cost is on that? What does it cost on that? For the grading based on minimum and different?
Yeah, it's just got one for each road.
The only problem I got with the whole thing is, I don't know that I'm ready to go out there as soon as one resident calls and says, my road needs graded, for us to spend taxpayers' money to go out and do it. Because I know of one gentleman that used to call every other day for his road to be graded, and he'd sit right in a water control meeting and say he can't drive down his road, and I would drive there that night and be able to go. It was the same as all the others. I mean, we lived on dirt roads. And so I'm not ready to say, as soon as one person calls, we're going to go out and grade the road.
And Your Honor, that's a very good point, because, you know, basically, there's no such thing as courtesy grades anymore, because we're under a contract. Now, I can tell you about one instance where Miss Underwood and I, sorry, bro, had a situation where we had some folks come in, and they wanted 4 loads of rock on their road. And I mean, it spent many hours with them, and then I went out, Frank went out, and then we met Steve and another of his staff, and at first his staff was agreeing on the loads of rock, but then when Steve looked at it, Frank and I didn't agree, they agreed with us. So you do have to look at these things, we do have to check and do a little bit of quality control, because I understand people are gonna ask, and sometimes what they're asking for, they don't really need. It may just be a grade, it may, you know, and that's what we're trying to do. That's why we wanted to establish the baseline, and then obviously, well, you know, it's not that we don't trust anybody, you know, it's just what you said. We wanna make sure that we're spending the dollars appropriately.
Years ago, we did courtesy grading based on when the garbage collection couldn't be done, when the mail couldn't get in, and when the fire department couldn't get in. And that was kind of the criteria. And I think what is happening over the years is everybody is expecting more service and more service, but they'll be the same ones that'll pack this place out if all of a sudden the taxes go to 2 mils and 2 1/4, because I think some of them think if I call enough, I'll get my road open. You know, or if I call enough, I'll get, you know, a different product. And we're Loxahatchee Groves. I mean, all of us moved here with a certain amount of dirt roads, you know, and so I think we just have to be careful that we don't, every time somebody calls, because you will have calls every day. And if a person says you've got to have 2 calls, the husband will call and his wife will call it. So you know, it has to be verified, and we just have to make sure that it's done right. So,
Mr. Mayor, I'm not against what I thought our practice was. We had an assessment. We asked for it to be done, especially in Road Rock, and Water Control District went out, Mike went out and said, yeah. And other times we had, I suggested that when Mike's grading the road, and he sees what goes by one of the town roads, and he says, hey, that ought to be graded, and I can do it while I'm here, and he can almost call in and say, hey, I think it needs. So in other words, the point was we were relying on the expertise of the Water Control District to tell us, yes, it should be done, or no, it can wait. And I think that process should continue. But what I'm talking about is, first one, the road on here is going to be graded twice, so we can have a baseline. Okay, so now we have a baseline. And that creates work for me, because every time they cut the road, all they do is move the dirt further down, and